Celestial Immortal Clan. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 626, Top 10 Powers. So Lin Changqing no longer hesitated, and immediately left the yard, flying his sword straight to the outer gate's General Affairs Hall. He had read the introductory books and already knew where the General Affairs Hall was. So an hour later, he saw the building he saw the day before yesterday, and then landed honestly in the square in front. However, he could still see many disciples on duty, leading more or less new disciples, entering and leaving the General Affairs Hall. He even saw Guo Shuking, who led them the day before yesterday, but seeing that he was busy, Lin Changqing did not go over to say hello to him. So after he walked into the General Affairs Hall, he saw 7 or 8 long queues, each of which had hundreds of people queuing. Lin Changqing scanned it with his spiritual sense and knew that he should also queue up. Because he saw others using spirit stones to exchange for sect contribution points, and also registering, all of which were completed at these windows. So there was no need for others to introduce, and he lined up very consciously. This time he was also going to exchange for 3,000 sect contribution points. He was not too resistant to doing the task now and earning contribution points, but Lin Changqing now had nearly 2 million spirit stones in his hand. So he felt that it was unnecessary to waste time on other things now. He still wanted to spend more time on cultivation. Of course, it is also okay to do a short-term task occasionally to adjust the mood. After waiting for almost an hour, it was Lin Changqing's turn. He was greeted by a very beautiful young female cultivator. She was only about 20 years old and had the cultivation level of the initial stage of foundation building. When Lin Changqing saw her, he couldn't help but look at her a few more times. Because she was so delicate, with a melon seed face, willow leaf eyebrows, bright eyes, white teeth, and ice-like skin and bones, many people around were secretly looking at her. But maybe they noticed Lin Changqing's eyes and thought they were coming for her appearance again. So this beautiful female cultivator on duty glared at him coldly, and then asked, "What business do you want to handle?" When Lin Changqing heard this, he couldn't help but frown. He didn't expect that the person was so beautiful, but so uncultivated, and he lost interest all of a sudden. So she said lightly, "Help me exchange 3,000 sect contribution points, and register for me. By the way, I want to participate in this 10-year competition." After that, she poured 30,000 low-grade spirit stones onto the counter, and then handed over her identity jade card. The female cultivator took the spirit stones expressionlessly, and then took Lin Changqing's identity jade card to a huge jade wall and touched it gently. Then she returned it to Lin Changqing and said, "It has been registered. Remember to go to the outer gate square to participate in the first round of the competition in 10 days. After that, she ignored Lin Changqing and raised her hand to signal him to leave quickly and not to hinder the people behind. Lin Changqing was speechless, but he didn't want to argue with her, so he quickly took a look at the identity jade card. He found that it did show that the sect contribution points were 3,000. After confirming that there was no problem, he turned around and left. There was nothing to do when he went back now. And since he already had the sect contribution points in his hand, Lin Changqing thought of going to the Sutra Pavilion to take a look. See if he can find some information about this world. After all, he is an outsider cultivator and knows too little about this world. Although he has not been to the Sutra Pavilion yet, he has a general impression of its location. According to the coordinates provided in the introductory book, it took half an hour to find the place successfully. A 5-story attic covering a huge area is the Sutra Pavilion of the outer gate. When Lin Changqing saw the 3 words Sutra Pavilion, he thought of his second grandfather. He didn't know how they are now. He also thought of his second grandfather's age. He didn't know if he could go back and see him again in his lifetime. He sorted out his divergent thoughts and walked into the Sutra Pavilion. The Sutra Pavilion of the sect was much larger than that of the Lin family. There was no comparison between the two. It was simply a small witch meeting a big witch. There were disciples on duty at the entrance of the Sutra Pavilion. After consulting, Lin Changqing was brushed away 3 sect contribution points, and he could look inside for 3 hours. According to the guidance of the disciple on duty just now, Lin Changqing successfully found the area he needed. This place is huge like a maze. If he were to find it by himself, he would have wasted a lot of time. In this geographical and cultural area, Lin Changqing began to flip through it. Soon he found a thick book called Introduction to the Top 10 Powers in the Star Sea Realm. Lin Changqing was overjoyed. Then he found a place to sit down and began to read carefully. He was fascinated by it. 3 hours passed unknowingly until the disciple on duty notified him. Lin Changqing reluctantly left the sutra library because it was already dark and he couldn't continue reading. So he spent some time, returned to the yard, made himself another spiritual tea, and then slowly tasted it. Today's harvest is still very great. At least I have a basic understanding of the Star Sea Realm. In general, this world has very little land area, and most of it is sea. In addition to the human race, there is also the Siren clan in the entire world. Basically, more than 70% of the sea and land are under the command of the Siren clan. The remaining 30% is still occupied by the top 10 powers and their affiliated forces. And not only that, the relationship between these 10 major forces is also very complicated, and can be roughly seen as 3 united forces. For example, the 4 sects headed by Xianshu sect, Wanhei sect, Linghai sect, and Biluo sect represent the righteous forces. The 3 sects headed by Kugu sect, Wanhan sect, and Zuhei sect represent the evil forces. In addition, there are forces representing the neutral side, Yuxia sect, Xian Oyo sect, Fengaiyu sect, etc. Just now, after seeing the introduction of these sects, Lin Changqing knew that this Xinghai realm must be restless. In addition to dealing with the beast tide from time to time, most of the time it is still a fight between the 10 major sects. And he also knew that the leader of Xianshu sect was Zuhei sect, and the 2 sides have always had hatred, and there have always been disputes at the border. Fortunately, the top leaders of both sides are still rational, and these disputes have been suppressed within a reasonable range. And there has been no large-scale outbreak. But all along, the border has been the place where both sides have suffered the most losses, except for the beast tide. Even in the sect's missions, there are various regular border guard tasks, and the rewards and sect contribution points are also very high. Chapter 627, 10-Man Melee. In fact, it is to encourage the disciples to go to the border for training, and the object of training is, needless to say, the disciples of the Blood Sea sect. Of course, the Blood Sea sect on the opposite side also adopts this approach. Through various tasks, the disciples are sent to the border. So after seeing through the tricks of the top leaders of the 2 factions, Lin Changqing decided not to accept such tasks in the future. After all, with his means, it is relatively simple to get cultivation resources. In the worst case, you can also buy the location of the monster from the Listening Wind Pavilion, and exchange it for spirit stones after hunting. There is no need to go to the border to fight for life and death. Of course, the book Introduction to the Top 10 Powers in the Star Sea Realm contains more than just this. There is also a lot of other information, such as the sect-level exercises of the major sects, including unique magical spells, introductions to powerful magic weapons, and even secret realms mastered by various sects. These will be introduced one by one when they are encountered in the future. Just at this time, a pot of spiritual tea was also finished. Lin Changqing was about to start practicing, and suddenly thought of the 1st and 2nd days of the 1st lunar month. Thinking that they had not been allowed to come out and recognize their new home, he released them from the spirit beast bracelet. After more than 2 months of recuperation, Chu Ai has almost recovered. It is estimated that he will be fully recovered in another 1 or 2 months. And during this period, Lin Changqing fed him a lot of good things. Maybe when he recovers, he may be able to make further progress. When they came out, Lin Changqing specifically instructed them not to fly out for the time being, but to move around within the yard. Because the yards are only separated by a distance of dozens of feet, with his spiritual sense, he can see the situation of dozens of yards around. Of course, the owner of the yard must not open the band to see it. And Lin Changqing would not do this. He did not have any hobbies of peeping, so he would not do such a thing. And now, Chu Ai and the others have no marks on them. If they fly out directly, it will easily cause trouble. So if they want to move freely, they still have to wait for Lin Changqing to go to the General Affairs Hall tomorrow to apply for a few identity marks for spirit beasts. In fact, it is a kind of animal ring that can be put on the body of a spirit beast. When others see it, they will know that it is a spirit beast with an owner, so they will not kill it at will. Ling Shai and Lin Changqing also forgot about it, otherwise he would have handled it together just now, so he would have to go to the General Affairs Hall again tomorrow. Male Qiu and Chao Chu were also released, allowing them to move freely in the yard. In the past 2 months, the black-feathered black thunderbird Chao Chu has grown a lot under Chuer's care. Now all the fluff on its body has disappeared. It has turned into the same black feathers as its mother, but its current cultivation level is only the lower level of the first rank. And it can't cast the Rinshu Divine Thunder now. It is estimated that it may need to reach the second level to have this method. And Chao Chu has only been born for more than 3 months, and its body is relatively small. It may be because it stays with Chuer most of the time. As soon as it came out of the spirit beast bracelet and flew a circle, it squeezed next to Chuer. Those who didn't know would think Chuer was its mother. After feeding several spirit beasts with some corresponding spirit fruits and monster meat according to their ranks, Lin Changqing ignored them. Except for Chao Chu, the other spirit beasts were old friends and would not cause trouble to Lin Changqing casually. So he left some monster meat for them, returned to his room, and began to practice. In this way, Lin Changqing officially settled down in Xianshu sect. The next morning, he used 400 sect contribution points to exchange 4 beast rings in the General Affairs Hall, and gave them to Chuai and the others. From then on, every day was very regular. In addition to going to the Sutra Pavilion and reading the 3-hour book during the day, the rest of the time was used for practice. This kind of life was leisurely and stress-free, so before he knew it, 10 days had passed in the blink of an eye. Early in the morning of this day, after Lin Changqing finished his practice, he rushed to the outer gate square. At this time, there were already a lot of people here. But the most conspicuous thing was the 20 large arenas that rose from the ground in the center of the outer gate square. Among them, 10 of the arenas are smaller, only 300 feet in radius, which is obviously prepared for the cultivators in the key refining stage. And the other 10 arenas, each with a radius of 1,500 feet, needless to say, are prepared for the cultivators in the foundation establishment stage. And on the edge of the arena, there are also many array flags, which are obviously to prevent the stage from accidentally injuring the fellow disciples watching the battle around. However, Lin Changqing is still very curious, and doesn't know why the sect wants to arrange such a large arena. In fact, even if the cultivators in the foundation establishment stage fight, they don't need such a large arena space, and if 500 feet is the limit. At this time, more and more fellow disciples gathered around, and he didn't know until he heard other people's chats that the first round of the competition was a 10-person melee. And in each round, on each arena, only one person who wins in the end can enter the next round of competition, and the other 9 people are eliminated. And in this kind of melee, except for the one-time high-powered treasures that are obviously beyond the second level, they cannot be used. Other means can be used, including spirit beasts and puppets, as well as various spirit talismans. And there is a time limit. If there is no winner in the ring within an hour, then everyone will be eliminated. After hearing this news, Lin Changqing knew that in such a big melee, you can't show too strong at the beginning. Otherwise, others may feel the danger and unite first to eliminate the strongest cultivator. Of course, if you are strong enough and can suppress the whole audience, then there is nothing to say. But Lin Changqing doesn't want to be so high profile, nor does he want to use too many trump cards. After all, he just came to Xianshu sect and doesn't want to attract too much attention, which is not good for him. So this round of big melee still requires a certain strategy. When it was sea time, suddenly many high-level cultivators' spiritual consciousness swept across the whole venue. Everyone knew that it should be the elder who presided over the big competition. So everyone present suddenly quieted down, and then a high-level cultivator appeared on each ring. Lin Changqing sensed that the Purple Mansion cultivator appeared on the key refining stage ring, and the Golden Elixir cultivator appeared on the foundation establishment stage ring. I immediately understood that this was the high-level monk sent by the sect to protect the disciples. After all, casualties were inevitable in the arena fight. With the protection of the high-level monks, the proportion of casualties would naturally be greatly reduced. Chapter 628 Competition Strategy. At this time, everyone present suddenly heard a peaceful voice, "I am the outer sect great elder, Sita Changhe, all disciples, be quiet." Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, all the disciples present immediately saluted in unison, "Hello, great elder, hello, great elder, hello, great elder." Sita Changhe couldn't help laughing after hearing this, and waved his hand and said, Okay. No need to be polite. This time's 10-year competition happens to coincide with the Xiangshu ceremony of the sect. Now the sect's top leaders are busy with this matter. If they don't have time to come to the scene to watch the ceremony, then this time's outer sect competition will have to be fully presided over by me. I won't say much about the other things. The rules are still the same as before. The first round of the 10-year competition will still adopt the method of 10-person melee. Select the most elite disciples to participate in the next competition. For the specific list of opponents, come and see the infinite jade wall yourself. After speaking, he waved his hand and threw out a green jade card. Unexpectedly, the jade card unfolded in the wind and suddenly turned into a huge jade wall hundreds of feet high. Then, words began to appear on both sides of the jade wall. Because the distance was a bit far, Lin Changqing directly scanned it with his spiritual sense. It was found that the front of the jade wall showed the battle list of the foundation building disciples. The battle information on the back must be the battle information of the key refining disciples, but Lin Changqing was not interested in these little guys. So, he only studied the list on the front and found that the information on it was quite detailed, just like the first ring on the right. It was named Jia Ring, and then the names of the 10 disciples participating in the battle were listed. There were also numbers of the corresponding caves behind the names, so that there would be no mistakes with the same name. Then it was Jia Ring, all the way to Jiashi Ring. Lin Changqing took a look and didn't find his name. He focused his attention on the first ring and found that 10 figures came on the ring one after another, and each occupied a corner of the ring. After the high-level monks on the stage verified their identities, they opened the defense array on the ring. Then a melee broke out on the stage, and something could be seen here. Some cultivators in the early stages of foundation building want to stay on the stage longer, so they will try to find opponents with similar or inferior cultivation to themselves. And the area of 1,500 feet is still a bit too crowded for 10 cultivators in the foundation building stage. So soon, several cultivators with low cultivation were either knocked off the stage or restrained by others, and then they admitted defeat and left. Therefore, 7 disciples with relatively low cultivation were eliminated quickly, and the remaining 3 were all cultivators in the late stage of foundation building. At this point, Lin Changqing also saw some tricks. Those fellow disciples in the early and middle stages of foundation building knew that they had no chance of getting the top 10 places. So they just fought for it appropriately, and did not try their best. Therefore, the ones left in the end were all fellow disciples in the late stage of foundation building. At this time, it was time to show their true strength. The remaining 3 fellow disciples used much more intense means than before. Spells, talismans, flying swords, and even secret techniques were flying everywhere, and the figures of the 3 people were also running around. For fear of being attacked by the other 2 fellow disciples, spells often hit the defensive formation. Lin Changqing watched with great interest outside. Sure enough, the fighting level of the sect disciples was higher than that of the casual cultivators without inheritance outside. However, Lin Changqing had watched for so long that he had a general understanding of the level of his fellow cultivators. He felt that he could completely deal with it as long as he used the thunder horn or the palm thunder. Anyway, the fact that he had a thunder spirit root was already known by the sect. Then it was not normal for him to know an ordinary palm thunder and use several thunder attribute spiritual tools. Unless he met a particularly powerful fellow disciple, Lin Changqing believed that these means would be enough to deal with it. If he met a fellow disciple who could not be dealt with by the palm thunder and the thunder attribute spiritual tools, he would at most release a small number of the second-level shocking god cicada. Of course, that was when there was really no other way. Lin Changqing would consider what to do. After thinking about the basic strategy of the competition, Lin Changqing watched the battle with peace of mind. Of course, he had been paying attention to the infinite jade wall, fearing that his name would appear without his knowing it. However, it was not until the afternoon that it was Lin Changqing's turn to play. At the 9th ring, which was the Jiaji ring, Lin Changqing immediately rushed over. After he got on the ring, he took out his identity jade card. He asked a high-level cultivator on the stage to verify his identity, and then he activated 2 defensive spiritual tools and cast a 5-element mixed shield. Then he used his spiritual sense to scan the circle and found that there were only 4 fellow disciples in the late stage of foundation building on the stage, and the rest were in the early and middle stages of foundation building. Lin Changqing and the 4 fellow disciples in the late stage of foundation building looked at each other, and then everyone knew what was going on. When the high-level cultivator on the stage signaled that they could start, Lin Changqing rushed her fellow disciple in the middle stage of foundation building next to him. 3 flying swords shot out, followed by a series of more than a dozen large fireballs. Seeing Lin Changqing's fierce attack, the fellow was shocked and moved desperately, and then added 2 layers of defense to himself. Unfortunately, at this time, Lin Changqing's sword-controlling speed was very fast. He dodged twice desperately, and his defense was broken, and finally he was blasted off the ring by the fireball. However, Lin Changqing controlled the power and did not let him get hurt, so the high-level monks on the stage did not rescue him. When he dealt with that fellow disciple, the others were almost done, so there were only 5 monks in the late stage of the building period left on the stage. Lin Changqing rushed directly to the fellow disciple closest to him, and the fellow disciple quickly responded. Then the 2 of them pulled the battlefield to the edge of the ring very tacitly. And then the 2 sides began to fight back and forth. Don't look at the 2 people fighting vividly. In fact, all this is under the control of Lin Changqing. If he wants to win, he can finish off his opponent at any time. It's just that he is dragging it out now, just wanting to wait for the result in the center of the ring before making a move. Sure enough, after a while, the winner was decided in the center of the ring with a series of explosions. Seeing the other 2 fellow disciples being rescued by the high-level monks on the stage. Needless to say, the monk standing in the center of the ring at the end is Lin Changqing's final opponent. Seeing that the result had already been achieved, he also stepped up his strength and forced his current opponent off the stage. At this time, there were only 2 of them left on the stage. Lin Changqing had time to look at his opponent, who was a young monk who was about 30 years old. Chapter 629, Easy Victory. I don't know what means this young monk used just now to eliminate the other 2 fellow disciples. Maybe because he just won a 1-on-2 battle quickly, this opponent seemed full of confidence, with a look of high spirits, and a bit of complacency. But Lin Changqing was not a fool, and would not underestimate his opponent casually. After all, he must be an elite disciple of the outer sect to deal with 2 monks of the same level at the same time. So Lin Changqing decided not to give him any chance to turn over. So as soon as the 2 of them fought, Lin Changqing used the advantage of his powerful spiritual sense to keep the distance between them at the limit of 500 feet. So that the opponent could not attack him, he advanced and I retreated, he retreated and I advanced, and kept controlling the opponent like this, and then he kept using multiple flying swords to attack and consume the opponent's mana. Faced with this tactic, the opponent knew that conventional means would definitely not work, so he used 2 or 3 trump cards. But they were all easily dealt with by Lin Changqing, and of course there was no way to change this situation. So the opponent was furious at Lin Changqing's shameless tactics, and his eyes were red with anger. He gnashed his teeth, wishing to strip him alive, but he couldn't do anything to him. In the end, Lin Changqing exhausted all his magic power, and he had no choice but to admit defeat. In this way, Lin Changqing did not use any trump cards, but only used some conventional means to win the first round of the melee. After the high-level monks on the stage confirmed Lin Changqing's identity information again and told him the time of the next round of competition, Lin Changqing had nothing to do, but there were many outer disciples of Xianshu sect, and the first round of 10-person melee would take about 2 days to finish. Therefore, he was not going to come for the next 2 days, and he had already understood the fighting level of his fellow monks. So he planned to wait until the day after tomorrow, when the second round of competition began, to come. Seeing that it was still early, he flew straight to the sutra pavilion on his sword, ready to read a book for a while, and then return to his yard. In this way, 2 days passed unknowingly. When Lin Changqing arrived at the outer gate square again, he found that there were fewer people this time. That's right. After all, more than 90% of the fellow disciples were eliminated in the first round of the melee. Now, there are only about 4,000 to 5,000 foundation building monks on the scene. And there should be some who have been eliminated and come here to watch and learn. Including the key refining monks, there are only a little over 10,000 people on the scene, which is much better than the last time. Moreover, the outer gate square today is different from the last time. This time, there are 100 arenas on the square. It's just that the largest arena is only 600 feet in radius. Obviously, this is prepared for foundation building monks. And the other smaller arena is only 100 feet in radius. Needless to say, it must be used for key refining monks. But after Lin Changqing saw it, he felt a little uncomfortable. This 600-foot arena is too small. It severely restricted him from using the strategy of extreme tactics, so he suffered a lot. He couldn't help but wonder if someone watched his competition last time and targeted him. After waiting for a while, the outer sect's great elder Sita Changhe and 100 high-level cultivators also arrived. Just like last time, after a high-level cultivator's spiritual sense swept through, everyone consciously quieted down. Seeing this situation, Sita Changhe chuckled and nodded, and then he spoke. Okay, to make a long story short, after the first round of screening of the 10-person melee, there are still 4,200 elite disciples in the outer sect's key refining stage, and there are still about 3,000 disciples in the foundation establishment stage. Therefore, today's task is more arduous, and the second and third rounds of competitions must be carried out. Therefore, the time for each competition cannot exceed a quarter of an hour. If it exceeds this time, both sides on the field will be eliminated. I won't say much about other things. For specific information, everyone can directly look at the infinite jade wall. After that, he released the infinite jade wall again. Lin Changqing immediately scanned it with his spiritual sense and found that his name was not on the list of the first batch of people who went on stage to compete. So he began to watch the battle while waiting, occasionally wandering between different arenas. He wanted to see if there were any particularly powerful fellow disciples, and he had to be prepared in advance. However, after walking around, he did not gain much. He only found a female fellow disciple. Except for her particularly powerful means, the others were all about the same level. According to the arena number, Lin Changqing went to the Wulian Jade Wall to take a look and wrote down her name. Her name is Song Yuding. She looks to be in her early 20s. She is in the middle stage of foundation building. She should be practicing wind-related exercises. Anyway, ordinary late-stage foundation building cultivators simply have no way to last long in her overwhelming wind blades. In Lin Changqing's opinion, this is a very powerful opponent, and he may need to use the thunder horn to deal with her. After waiting for more than an hour, it was finally Lin Changqing's turn, this time in the 24th arena. After quickly going on stage and verifying his identity, Lin Changqing immediately activated 2 defensive spiritual tools and a layer of 5 elements Yunun shield. Then he began to look at his opponent and found that this time his opponent was a little older, but his aura was perfect, and he should have reached the great perfection of foundation building. If he was well prepared and had elixirs such as Zifu Tuangsuandian in his hands, he could officially impact the Zifu period. At this time, the high-level cultivator on the stage signaled that both sides could start the competition. Lin Changqing immediately moved. He originally wanted to continue using the extreme tactics from last time, but this time his opponent was very smart. Seeing that he had been moving along the edge of the ring, he directly occupied the most central position of the ring. This approach immediately cracked Lin Changqing's extreme tactics. Fortunately, he had also been prepared early. When they were fighting with flying swords, he suddenly raised his hand and a palm lightning shot out. In an instant, he crossed a distance of 200 or 300 feet and directly broke through the opponent's layer of defensive light shield. Lin Changqing suddenly made a move and caught the opponent off guard. The opponent's experience in fighting was also very rich, and he immediately realized that the situation was not good. So he tried his best to defeat Lin Changqing in a short time. Unfortunately, Lin Changqing was not stupid and did not give him a chance to turn the tables. He was also very slippery. No matter what, he would not fight his opponent head-on, but the palm thunder never stopped. Chapter 630, Encounter with Insect Cultivator. So it went on like this, continuously. Boom, boom, boom. Although Lin Changqing did not exert his full strength, he basically controlled the frequency of one palm thunder in one breath. So the opponent could not hold on for long. After being hit by dozens of palm thunders and all his defense measures were broken, he took the initiative to admit defeat. This time Lin Changqing used fair and just means, so the opponent did not feel unconvinced, and even recognized his strength very much. Therefore, after the competition, he came over to get acquainted with Lin Changqing, and the two sides exchanged names. This fellow disciple named Zhao Chuanhe actually wanted to invite him to form a team together in the future and take on border missions. However, Lin Changqing had no idea of doing the mission for the time being, so he still politely declined. But he did not say it firmly, only saying that if he wanted to take on border missions in the future, he would contact Zhao Chuanhe, and the two sides also exchanged the addresses of the caves. It can be seen that Zhao Chuanhe really wanted to get to know Lin Changqing, a powerful fellow disciple. So the two of them got together and chatted casually. Unexpectedly, during this chat, Lin Changqing heard a very important piece of news. That is, if you become an inner disciple and choose an island to support yourself immediately, you can only choose an island with a second-grade upper-grade spiritual vein. And it will be difficult to change in the future, unless you are willing to invest huge resources to cultivate the spiritual vein on the island. Only in this way can the spiritual vein on the island be advanced, so if you become an inner disciple, don't rush to choose an island to support yourself. You can take tasks to the border and earn demon hunting merits. In this way, when you accumulate to a certain level, you can choose an island with a higher spiritual vein grade. Of course, there is a limit to this, and the highest level can only reach the 4th level. But for Lin Changqing or his family, it is enough for the time being, at least for a very long time. They don't have to consider the issue of spiritual veins. After Zhao Chuanhe chatted with him for more than an hour, he said goodbye and left, and agreed to visit his cave when he had time in the future. Since he knew such important news from Zhao Chuanhe, he was ready to accept the mission and stay at the border for a while after becoming an inner disciple. Although Lin Changqing did not like meaningless killing, if the target was a cultivator of the evil way, then there would be no psychological pressure for him to attack those people. But the most important thing now is to become an inner disciple first. After sorting out his thoughts, Lin Changqing did not sit there idly, and wandered around dozens of arenas again. You don't know until you see it. After wandering for more than 2 hours, he found that there were also many talents among the outer disciples of Xianshu sect. In these 2 hours, he saw rare insect cultivators and formation cultivators, and even a water-attributed magic cultivator who specialized in controlling spiritual water. This was just what he saw with his own eyes in the 2 hours. There must be some powerful fellow disciples that he missed and did not see. After seeing these powerful opponents, Lin Changqing deliberately went to the arena where they were. Then he went to the Wulian Jade Wall, checked their names, and remembered them in his heart. After wandering around for a long time, it was not until the afternoon that it was Lin Changqing's turn to compete on stage again. This time, he was assigned to the 34th round of the A class. After going on stage quickly and verifying his identity, Lin Changqing had time to look at his opponent. This time it was a middle-aged fellow disciple in his 40s. After a slight sense, he had the strength of the late stage of foundation building. However, it seemed that this opponent should have suffered some internal injuries, mainly because Lin Changqing saw that his face was not very good. When the high-level cultivators on the stage signaled that they could start, Lin Changqing immediately moved, and then the palm thunders came one after another. Unexpectedly, this opponent took the initiative to admit defeat after enduring 7 or 8 palm thunders. In this way, Lin Changqing easily won the 3rd round of the competition. From the high-level cultivators on the stage, he knew that he would continue to come tomorrow to compare the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds. After Lin Changqing said that he knew, he left the outer gate square and returned to his small courtyard. He hurriedly fed his spiritual pets and spiritual insects, and brewed a pot of spiritual tea for himself, and slowly tasted it. After reviewing the duel with Zhao Chuanhe, I found that I didn't make any obvious mistakes, so I felt quite satisfied. Overall, today was relatively easy. I hope I won't encounter a tough opponent tomorrow. After not finding any big problems, Lin Changqing started practicing again. Early the next morning, Lin Changqing came to the outer gate square again. This time, there were even fewer people in the square. Including the fellow disciples who came to watch the game, there were less than 5,000 people in total. After the great elder Sita Changhe said a few simple words, the competition began. There were only more than 700 people left in the foundation building period, so soon Lin Changqing's name appeared on the boundless jade wall. In the 4th and 5th rounds of the competition, the opponents were ordinary fellow disciples in the late foundation building period. Lin Changqing didn't spend too much energy and let them admit defeat. He had always won with palm thunder, so at this time, Lin Changqing had a great reputation among the outer disciples. There were even many fellow disciples who were watching the battle, who highly praised his strength and gave him a nickname, which was called Little Thunder God. But he didn't like it. He just used palm thunder and was not worthy of the title of Thunder God, so Lin Changqing never admitted this nickname. And there were many fellow disciples, including several female cultivators, who wanted to come and get acquainted with him and invite him to the cave as a guest, but he politely declined them all. Lin Changqing's primary goal now is to work hard to improve his cultivation. He doesn't want to get involved too much in those messy things. The 6th round of the competition started at about noon, and this time he was assigned to the Jiaxi arena. And this time, Lin Changqing had seen his opponent take action with his own eyes, and he was very surprised at the time, because this time his opponent was a very rare insect cultivator. And the spirit insect controlled by this insect cultivator, Lin Changqing had only seen one kind, that is, the red copper fire ant, both the first and second levels. This copper fire ant is a dual attribute spiritual insect of gold and fire. The defense of the gold spiritual insect itself is very strong, and they also have a natural spell, that is, the gold-eating fire bead. The characteristic of this spell is that the temperature is extremely high, especially for metal spiritual tools. It has a very strong restraining effect. Chapter 631, Turning Enemies into Friends. If the number of copper fire ants is small, it is relatively easy to deal with. But if the number of copper fire ants is hundreds or thousands, even if Lin Changqing can deal with it, it will not be so easy. Fortunately, last time, Lin Changqing only saw hundreds of copper fire ants, and only a dozen or 20 of them were second level. Generally speaking, the threat to him is not too great, but when he saw him, Lin Changqing's first reaction was to release the spirit insect in his hand and compete with him. But in the end, he was still forcibly restrained by Lin Changqing. After all, it is not worth exposing his insect cultivation trump card for him. It's just that with Lin Changqing's understanding of the sect, he didn't expect to meet this insect cultivator named Yi Qianzhong here. After all, in his opinion, his and Yi Qianzhong's performance in the past 2 days should be considered relatively outstanding. They can barely be regarded as seeded players, but I don't know why they are put together now. Normally, the sect should separate them and put them at the end. This is the most beneficial arrangement for the sect, arranging them on the same stage so early in the morning. Wouldn't that kill one of them? After the high-level cultivator on the stage signaled that they could start, the two sides looked at each other and nodded to each other. It seems that they have all seen each other's competition and know that they are both powerful opponents, so after greeting each other, they went all out. Yi Qianzhong directly occupied the position in the center of the stage. He patted the spirit beast bag on his waist, and more than 100 copper fire ants flew out immediately, including those of the first and second levels. Then they automatically divided into several groups and quickly surrounded Lin Changqing, and the second-level copper fire ants had already begun to spit out gold-eating fire beads. Although each fire bead is only the size of a thumb, Lin Changqing is not interested in trying their power. So he tried his best and moved quickly, just because he didn't want to be surrounded so easily. If that's the case, then it will be troublesome. In the end, he must be busy dealing with the gold-eating fire beads and then run around. However, this was just Yi Qianzhong's wishful thinking, and Lin Changqing would not agree. Moreover, it was not Lin Changqing's character to not fight back after being beaten, but considering that the power of the Palm Thunder was relatively small. If you want to defeat Yi Qianzhong quickly, there is only one way, that is to use the thunder horn, so Lin Changqing no longer hesitated. Pretending to touch the storage bag on his waist, he touched it, and then the thunder horn appeared in his hand. He quickly poured thunder mana into it, and with the help of Babe, he quickly generated 3 Zhengjin God Thunders. After locking the target, Lin Changqing also deliberately looked at the high-level monk on the stage first, and then fired 2 Zhengjin God Thunders. Boom, boom, and after delaying for 2 breaths, he fired the last Zhengjin God Thunder again. Boom. On the other side, Yi Qianzhong was suddenly faced with the attack of Zhengjin God Thunder, and he was completely confused. He always thought that Lin Changqing only knew Palm Thunder, but the power was not too great, so he was holding 3 top-grade defensive spiritual tools. He thought he could at least hold on for 40 or 50 breaths. But he didn't expect to encounter not the Palm Thunder, but the Zhengjin Divine Thunder, which was famous for its huge lethality. The 2 Divine Thunders in front directly smashed the 3 defensive spiritual tools on his head. And the remaining power also fell on Yi Qianzhong. He was knocked down on the spot, and blood was splattered everywhere. At this time, the high-level cultivators on the stage also reacted. Then he pointed at Yi Qianzhong, and a layer of yellow light shield immediately appeared on his body, which blocked Lin Changqing's 3rd Zhengjin Divine Thunder. However, after blocking the last Divine Thunder, this layer of yellow light shield was also covered with dense cracks, but then it disappeared. Needless to say, Since the high-level cultivators on the stage have already rescued their opponents, Lin Changqing automatically won. So the high-level cultivators on the stage stretched out their hands to the stage, and all the copper fire ants released by Yu Qianzong appeared in his hands. This way, there would be no threat to Lin Changqing, and then he said, "Lin Changqing wins." After saying that, he nodded at him, with unconcealed admiration in his eyes. He had received Lin Changqing's reminder just now. That's why he was able to rescue Yu Qianzong in time. At this time, Yu Qianzong finally recovered. After all, he was a cultivator in the foundation building period and was not that fragile. After he got up, he quickly took the healing pills and gave himself blood. He immediately bowed and thanked the high-level cultivator on the stage, but he didn't have a good face for Lin Changqing. He took back all the copper fire ants, and before leaving the stage, he gave Lin Changqing a fierce look, obviously remembering this grudge in his heart. Lin Changqing saw it, but he didn't care. He believed that if he could beat him once, he could beat him countless times. Moreover, he'd better be sensible and not come to trouble Lin Changqing casually, otherwise, he is not a kind-hearted person. What Lin Changqing didn't expect was that the high-level cultivator on the stage suddenly said, "Boy, don't be ungrateful. Your opponent has shown mercy. He had already reminded me before he made his move just now. Otherwise, with the speed of thunder, I would not have been able to beg you in time." And he also fired the 3 Zhengjun Divine Thunders in 2 batches. Otherwise, if they had come at the same time, you would have died long ago. Yu Qianzong, who was about to step down, heard the words of the person on the stage, and his blood and ki rose rapidly. His face suddenly turned red. However, he reacted quickly and bowed respectfully to Lin Changqing. Then he said, "Thank you, Senior Brother Lin, for showing mercy. I was blind and rude just now. Of course, it would be the best thing to reduce one enemy." So Lin Changqing chuckled and said, "No, Junior Brother Yi, don't mind. I was just forced by your second-level copper fire ant. In order to win, I had to use this thunder attribute spiritual weapon, but its power is not easy to control, so it caused this consequence." Sorry, Yu Qianzong felt much better when he heard him say this. After all, Lin Changqing's strength was so strong, and he personally admitted that the copper fire ants were powerful. For Yu Qianzong, that was the greatest recognition. So he instantly felt like a confidant, so he forcibly pulled Lin Changqing, and left each other the address of the cave, saying that he would visit him in the future. Chapter 632, Defending the Ring. Yu Qianzong suddenly became too enthusiastic, and Lin Changqing was not used to it. It took a lot of effort to send him away. Later, he learned from the high-level cultivators on the stage that there were still dozens or hundreds of people left, and they would come here tomorrow. Continue the competition until the 10 best disciples enter the inner gate. So Lin Changqing agreed and left the stage, but the noise they made here was too loud. There were already many fellow disciples watching the battle under the stage, especially after they knew that Lin Changqing had a more powerful divine thunder. They were even more enthusiastic. Many of the lovely female cultivators wanted to pull Lin Changqing to their caves as guests. In fact, they didn't have too many other intentions, just because he was powerful. They wanted to get to know him, and then have the opportunity to team up together. Lin Changqing finally got rid of these enthusiastic fellow disciples and returned to the courtyard alone, and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Today he showed a little bit of his strength, but he didn't expect that he had attracted the attention of so many fellow disciples. But this is not what he wants. He does not want to be too high profile and attract the attention of the sect's top leaders. Just like the high-level cultivator on the stage just now, Lin Changqing felt that his intentions were very obvious. At that time, as long as Lin Changqing took the initiative to approach him, he might be accepted as a direct disciple on the spot. But this is not what he wants, so after the high-level cultivator helped him say those words, Lin Changqing has been pretending to be stupid and ignorant, and just not following the normal way of thinking. Of course, there is also disdain for the person on the stage, who is only in the Jinden period. If it were a Yuanying cultivator, Lin Changqing would have to think about it carefully. After all, it seems not bad to have a true lord as a backer. After tidying up his mood, he began to review several competitions today. After not finding any obvious mistakes, he took a break from his busy schedule and made himself a pot of spiritual tea. After drinking the tea, he began to practice 2 fundamental methods and magic skills. On the second day, Because Lin Changqing knew that he was already quite famous among the inner disciples, he deliberately controlled the time today. He didn't get there too early, but delayed it a little and appeared in the outer gate square at the right time. But today, it was different from the previous 2 days. There were too many fellow disciples who appeared in the outer gate square today. Although it was not as exaggerated as the first day when all the outer disciples were dispatched, there were at least 30,000 or 40,000 fellow disciples here. These fellow disciples should want to come and see with their own eyes how the top 10 disciples in the final competition were selected. And Lin Changqing also found that the situation in the center of the outer gate square was different today. Most of the 100 arenas that were placed before were gone now. There were only 20 arenas left. Judging from the size of the arenas, it is estimated that half of them were in the key refining and foundation establishment stages. In Lin Changqing's opinion, if the number of arenas was reduced, it would not be so fast to decide the winner. I don't know if this was done to take care of these disciples who came to watch the game. Just then, not long after Lin Changqing appeared in a low-key manner, the outer gate Great Elder Sita Changhe appeared in midair. A burst of high-level cultivators' unique divine sense swept in, and tens of thousands of people on the outer gate square instantly quieted down. Then there was a large, continuous voice of greetings. Hello, Great Elder. Hello, Great Elder. Hello, Great Elder. Sita Changhe chuckled and nodded. Okay, today is a good day, all disciples, please don't be polite. Today, the disciples in the key refining and foundation building stages will be able to decide the final 10. The reward for the disciples in the foundation building stage is to enter the inner gate. There is no need to say more about this, everyone knows it. And the reward for the 10 winning key refining disciples this time is 20,000 sect contribution points each, plus a green scale fruit, and a foundation building pill. As soon as Sita Changhe finished speaking, many of the disciples below were already boiling. Let's not talk about anything else. Just the 20,000 sect contribution points alone has already made many people jealous, not to mention the Kinglin fruit and foundation building pill. Very satisfied with the reaction of the disciples below. After Sita Changhe nodded, he continued, there is also today's competition method, which has been changed to defense battle. The same applies to the disciples in the key refining and foundation building stages. There are exactly 100 disciples left in the key refining and foundation building stages, and each has 3 challenge opportunities. In the end, if no one comes on stage to challenge again for more than a quarter of an hour, it will be considered that the defense is successful and automatically obtains the top 10 places. Hearing what the Great Elder Sita Changhe said, all the remaining people began to feel numb. Lin Changqing was speechless in an instant. He had been thinking about getting the top 10 places in a low-key manner. But now it seems that it is not that easy. If he follows the competition method of yesterday, he can enter the top 10 steadily after a maximum of 4 competitions. But now that the competition method has changed, Lin Changqing doesn't know how many challenges he will have to accept. Moreover, this kind of defending battle has a very obvious disadvantage, that is, the earlier the person goes up, the more disadvantaged he will suffer. It is equivalent to accepting countless round-robin battles. If you don't have strong strength and strong mana, you can't defend it all. But after thinking about it carefully, Lin Changqing admired the top leaders of the sect very much. They can actually come up with this method, because the disciples selected by this method are definitely the strongest. But everyone is not a fool, and they all know that the first one to go up will suffer the most. So after the Great Elder Sita Changhe announced the start, the 20 arenas were empty, and no one took the initiative to go on stage. So after waiting for a while and seeing that no one still went on stage, Sita Changhe said again, if no one takes the initiative to go on stage within a quarter of an hour, then there will be no top 10 in this competition. After speaking, he also deliberately took a look at the disciples with stronger strength. Lin Changqing even felt that the Great Elder also looked at him. Although this was not Lin Changqing's original intention, he knew that he could not continue to play dead. Especially since the Great Elder had just pointed him out intentionally or unintentionally. Otherwise, being remembered by Yuan Ying's engine would not be a good thing. So he immediately flew up and climbed onto the big arena closest to him. Coincidentally, the high-level cultivator on duty on this arena was the one who spoke for Lin Changqing yesterday. Chapter 633, Encounter with Water Spiritual Cultivator. I didn't notice it just now, but now that it was this person, Lin Changqing's heart tightened. But since he had already come up, He couldn't let his imagination run wild. He quickly took out his identity jade card and verified his identity to the monk on the stage. Then he began to activate the defensive spiritual weapon, and directly showed the thunder horn, and began to infuse mana into it. Of course, he also prepared other spiritual weapons. In order to successfully enter the top 10 this time, Lin Changqing had already made a decision in his heart. That is, he had to be ruthless. Because no matter how strong his mana was, it was impossible to support hundreds of round-robin battles. Only by being ruthless can those fellow disciples who wanted to challenge him carefully consider the consequences. Otherwise, he would definitely be exhausted of mana by the challenged opponent and then driven off the stage. While there was still a little time, Lin Changqing used his spiritual sense to scan the situation of several surrounding arenas. He found that several powerful fellow disciples he knew had already consciously come on stage. This made him feel a little relieved. If these people didn't go on stage, and only he went on stage, then he would lose a lot. However, at this time, Lin Changqing had to put his attention back on his own stage, because his first challenger had already gone on stage. After taking a look at him, he found that he was actually a middle-aged cultivator of about 40 years old, with a cultivation of the great perfection of foundation building. Yes, if he didn't have a little strength, he wouldn't dare to challenge on stage so early, so Lin Changqing waited for him to verify his identity. Then he said, "Hello, senior brother. Because of the special situation, I may not be able to control the power when I take action later. Please forgive me, senior brother." After hearing this, the man laughed and said, "The famous little thunder god. I have heard about it these 2 days. But since I dare to come up, I have been mentally prepared. After all, the immortal road is a fight. Junior brother, don't worry, just let it go. If I get hurt or die, it's my own business." When Lin Changqing heard it, he knew it in his heart, nodded and said nothing. Since his opponent dared to say that, it proved that his strength should not be weak. So after he was ready, the high-level cultivator on the stage immediately signaled the start of the competition. Lin Changqing did not dare to be careless, and immediately used his body skills and began to move at a very fast speed. After locking the target with his spiritual consciousness, he directly fired 3 Jiangjin divine thunders in one breath. Boom, boom, boom. However, the effect this time was not very good. Although it did destroy the 3 defensive spiritual weapons on the opponent's head. But the last Jiangjin divine thunder was actually blocked by a layer of spiritual water that suddenly appeared. This layer of spiritual water that suddenly appeared was exactly the second-level heavy water that Lin Changqing was very familiar with. He had a lot of this kind of spiritual water before. And looking at the number of the opponent's second-level heavy water, it was really a lot, at least 50 or 60 drops. You must know that a drop of second-level heavy water weighs 1,000 pounds. The number of 50 or 60 drops, plus the blessing of mana. This defensive power is already very strong. It turns out that this is the reason why he dared to go on stage. No wonder he dared to choose Lin Changqing as the object of challenge. His last Jiangjin divine thunder hit the defensive water curtain formed by the second-order heavy water, forming layers of continuous ripples, but it just didn't break. Lin Changqing knew that he couldn't hesitate or be soft-hearted. So he immediately pretended to touch the storage bag, and a feather fan with 5 colors appeared in his hand. It was the Xiankan 5 thunder fan that he bought in Wanbao Pavilion before. This was his first time to officially use this spiritual weapon. And just when he was in the thunder acupoint, Lin Changqing had already controlled it and poured thunder magic into it. So as soon as the Xiankan 5 thunder fan came out, it could be used directly. Then he waved at his opponent without hesitation, and 5 thunders of different colors shot out, including both yin and yang thunders. And Lin Changqing was very experienced. Through the thunder control technique, he hit the same position of the defensive water curtain. So the effect was also very good. After consuming the previous 4 thunders, the last thunder successfully broke through the defense and fell on the opponent. He was knocked to the ground, and blood splattered. Parts of his body were already dark. The second-order heavy water used by the opponent, because of the loss of mana, all fell on the ring, and smashed a lot of small pits on the ring. At this time, the high-level monk on the stage had already landed beside the opponent and stopped Lin Changqing from continuing to attack. He checked and found that Lin Changqing's opponent did not die directly, but just fainted. But the situation is a bit serious, but he didn't die directly, which is the best result for him. So he immediately announced, Lin Changqing wins. Then he waved his hand and gathered dozens of drops of second-order heavy water on the stage. He fed the unconscious person a healing medicine, and then got him off the ring. After Lin Changqing confirmed that he had won, he didn't care about anything and sat cross-legged in a corner of the ring. Then he took out a few medium-grade spirit stones from the storage bag, and ran the skills to quickly restore his consumed mana. This is to prepare for a protracted battle. He dare not hope that he can get a place in the top 10 with one move. However, the movement on the ring just now was so loud that 8 thunderous sounds were heard in a very short time. And the person who came on stage to challenge was seen by everyone. So for the opponents watching below, it was already a huge shock. Therefore, for a while, no one came on stage to challenge. But Lin Changqing didn't care about that. Time is precious now, and every bit of mana he can recover is a bit. He was holding a high-grade spirit stone in one hand and a Changqing 5 thunder fan in the other. Obviously, while trying to recover, he was still pouring thunder mana into the 5 thunder fan. This is to prepare for the next challenge. Until the high-level cultivator on the stage said, "It's already half an hour. If no one comes on stage to challenge after another half a quarter of an hour, then Lin Changqing will be considered to have successfully defended the ring and automatically get a place in the top 10. This sentence is really very useful. As soon as the high-level cultivator on the stage finished speaking, someone came on stage to challenge. Lin Changqing was very calm now. At this moment, he would not be polite to anyone who dared to come out and block the way. So he just watched coldly, waiting for the person to verify his identity, get ready, and wait for the start. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 634 Ghost Face Soul Devouring Spider. The new opponent suddenly saluted Lin Changqing and said, "Hello, Senior Brother Lin. I know I am not your opponent. But I have never fought against Liu, so I couldn't help but be curious and challenged him. So please, Senior Brother Lin, when you beat me up later, please be merciful and leave me a way to live. I thank you here first." After that, he saluted again with a respectful attitude. When Lin Changqing heard this, he couldn't help laughing. This so-called junior brother was really very cunning. He could actually put down his face. He, a cultivator who had reached the great perfection of foundation building, actually called Lin Changqing, who is in the late stage of foundation building, his senior brother. It can be seen how shameless he is. For such a person, Lin Changqing will only be more vigilant. This person dared to come up to challenge, and it is estimated that his strength should be good. I want to test the waters with him. First praise Lin Changqing and let him show mercy. If the challenge is unsuccessful, you can continue to challenge somewhere else. Lin Changqing was ready to strike hard, but now he heard what he said. He couldn't do it right away. After all, he called himself a junior brother, and there were so many fellow disciples watching. So Lin Changqing had to maintain a bit of demeanor, but he was not someone who could be easily manipulated. So he said, "Brother, you are joking. You have reached the great perfection of foundation building, which is much higher than me, so I am the junior brother." At this time, the high-level cultivator on the stage suddenly said, "Okay, don't talk so much nonsense. If you want to make friends, wait until after today. Now you can start the competition." Hearing what he said, Lin Changqing and the other person responded, and then his opponent slapped the spirit beast bag on his waist. Released 2 big black spiders, and there were some white lines on their backs. At a glance, it looked like a huge ghost face. This kind of spider monster is too famous and too easy to recognize. It is the famous ghost-faced soul-eating spider. Fortunately, these 2 monsters are only at the late stage of the second order. But they are already very difficult to deal with. If they are at the third order, then Lin Changqing will be in trouble. No wonder they dare to challenge him. And at this time, the man took out a cloak from the storage bag and covered himself with it. His figure instantly disappeared on the stage. Lin Changqing was shocked. He didn't expect that the opponent this time would be so strong. And the set of strategies formulated was very targeted. It should have been thought of early in the morning to deal with him. Just want to force him to deal with the 2 ghost-faced soul-eating spiders first, so as to create an opportunity for himself to attack Lin Changqing. Although Lin Changqing recognized this kind of monster at a glance and saw through the opponent's thoughts, but there was no way this was an open conspiracy. Lin Changqing didn't dare to let the ghost-faced soul-eating spider show its power at will, because no matter whether it was soul-stealing technique or net-catching technique, that is, soul-catching technique, using it on such a small stage would pose a great threat to Lin Changqing. Especially the soul-stealing technique. Although it was protected by the Yushin soul shield, the low-level soul-stealing technique was useless to him. But he didn't want to reveal this secret. Otherwise, it might cause some unnecessary trouble. After all, he didn't want people to associate it with the heart-searching formation when he entered the sect. So Lin Changqing had no choice at all. With a wave of the Shiankan 5 Thunder Fan, 5 thunders shut out. At this time, the 2 soul-devouring spiders also opened their mouths and spit out 2 innate spells at the same time, which were a soul-stealing technique and a net-catching technique. The black soul-stealing technique was dodged by Lin Changqing at high speed, but the net-catching technique almost enveloped him in it. And although he was not captured, it was on the ring, forming a restricted area of 10 feet in radius. Because Lin Changqing didn't dare to step into it, he was afraid of being stuck by the spider web on the ground. If the soul-devouring spiders really came a few more times, he would have nowhere to escape. Fortunately, they didn't have a chance. 5 thunders fell on them. After one of them endured 3 thunders, the juice flew across and fell on the ring. The other one, after enduring 2 thunderbolts, was also seriously injured, but still fought hard and fired another net-catching spell at Lin Changqing. And just when Lin Changqing was desperately dodging, 10 palm thunderbolts transformed from spiritual talismans suddenly appeared and all hit his head. The 5 elements Hunan shield and the 2 defensive spiritual tools were basically broken. And because of the attack, his body movement paused for 2 or 3 breaths, and then 10 palm thunderbolts hit him directly. Fortunately, no matter how powerful the palm thunderbolt is, it is only a first-level spell. For him, a third-level physical cultivator, plus his own super high thunder resistance, the damage is not too great. But the trouble is that every time he attacks Lin Changqing, he will pause, which forces him to activate a top-grade defensive spiritual tool. Only then did he get rid of this urgent state, and then use the thunder horn to fire a Jiangjin divine thunder. This completely made the last soul-devouring spider completely lose its resistance. At this time, the ring suddenly fell into a strange calm. Lin Changqing had an idea and released Chuai directly, and let it fly to the highest place immediately. In fact, Chuai's injury last time has not healed yet. But Lin Changqing needs its golden eyes to help him find the location of his opponent, so he took such a risk. Fortunately, Chuai did not disappoint him, and soon told Lin Changqing the location of his opponent through the contract. He had an idea and was about to launch the remaining 2 Jiangjin divine thunders. But unexpectedly, the opponent had already taken a step forward, removed the invisibility, and directly admitted defeat. Then he ignored everything else and quickly stepped forward to check the injuries of the 2 ghost-faced soul-eating spiders. But Lin Changqing knew that each of them had been hit by 3 divine thunders, and the estimated situation should not be optimistic. However, seeing that the opponent had fed the 2 soul-eating spiders with elixirs, he knew that they were not completely dead. But he was powerless and could only watch quietly. In fact, he had been holding a medium-grade spirit stone in his hand, secretly speeding up the recovery of mana. But the high-level monk stationed on the ring would not let Lin Changqing take advantage of the situation. So he announced directly, Lin Changqing wins. The countdown begins. The loser, leave the ring quickly and don't interfere with the following competitions. The man nodded helplessly after hearing this. After putting the 2 severely injured ghost-faced soul-eating spiders into the spirit beast bag, he left quickly without saying anything. Chapter 635 Inner Disciples. The contest between the 2 this time was much more exciting than the first one. Especially Lin Changqing, who took on 10 palm thunders in a row, and nothing happened. At least on the surface, nothing happened, so the fellow disciples watching the battle below the stage had more or less some guesses in their hearts. But Lin Changqing didn't have time to care what they were thinking at this time. After recalling Chuai, he took 2 rejuvenation pills for himself. He seized the time and began to recover his mana. However, with these 2 contests, many people in the audience have really known Lin Changqing's strength. So the fellow disciples who surrounded him under the ring and looked for opportunities basically left. There was really no confidence that they could defeat Lin Changqing, so they went to other rings to try their luck. Suddenly, There were fewer fellow disciples watching, and Lin Changqing soon felt it. Although this situation made him secretly happy, he didn't dare to relax at all, and he kept working hard to recover his mana. Soon, half a quarter of an hour passed, and no one came on stage to challenge. The high-level monk on the stage even opened his mouth to remind him once, but unfortunately no one responded. In the next half a quarter of an hour, Lin Changqing really felt like he was living a year in a day, but fortunately, his luck was really good. In the end, no one challenged him on the stage again. So after a quarter of an hour, the high-level monk stationed on the stage immediately announced that Lin Changqing had won a place in the top 10. When this news came out, all the fellow disciples below the ring were boiling, and even affected some of the rings that were competing. However, these have nothing to do with Lin Changqing. Since he has already obtained a place to enter the inner gate, he doesn't need to stay on the ring any longer. Of course, this ring has also completed its mission. After thanking the high-level monk stationed on the stage, he left the ring. But as soon as he went down, many fellow disciples surrounded him, all wanting to make friends with him. There was no way Lin Changqing could only try his best to deal with it. But he was really not good at it, nor did he like this kind of environment, but he couldn't leave, so he could only bite the bullet and deal with it from time to time. In the end, he still made an excuse that he wanted to go and see other fellow disciples compete, so there weren't so many people around him. Then he went around the other 9 arenas and found a very interesting phenomenon. That is, the fellow disciples he knew who were stronger, there were not many people guarding under their arenas. On the contrary, there were many people surrounding the other 5 arenas, and after watching for a while, he found that the champions of these 5 arenas often changed, and realized that the 5 arenas should have the biggest variables in this competition. Sure enough, an hour later, the 4 powerful champions successfully obtained the quota to enter the inner gate. Like Lin Changqing just now, after they announced their victory on the stage, a lot of people surrounded them, all of whom were fellow disciples who came up to make friends. There was a big circle inside and outside, so that Lin Changqing didn't have a chance to go up and get to know each other. After all, they are disciples who entered the inner gate at the same time, and they are natural allies. So these people still need to get to know each other. The other 5 arenas have been ups and downs, but no matter what, there will always be an end. In fact, it is because many fellow disciples who failed in the challenge have more or less injuries on their bodies. Knowing that they have no chance at all, they simply give up the challenge. That's why it ended in the evening, and the top 10 list came out smoothly. It was actually the easiest for Lin Changqing and the other 10 disciples to enter the inner gate. The Great Elder personally met with the 10 of them, gave them affirmation and encouragement, and a certificate to enter the inner gate. After that, he told them to give them some time to deal with the affairs of the outer gate. As long as they report to the inner gate General Affairs Hall on time within 3 days, they will be fine. As for the rewards for the top 10 in the key refining period, Lin Changqing didn't care at all, so he didn't stay to watch. While everyone's attention was attracted by the little guys, Lin Changqing quietly slipped away first. Otherwise, wait, it will all be over. If Lin Changqing wants to leave again, it won't be that easy. After returning to his own courtyard smoothly, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't expect that he would have to move to another place after only living in this courtyard for a few days. Fortunately, this time he entered the inner gate, which is a very good thing, so there is no need to sigh so much. He plans to report to the inner gate General Affairs tomorrow. Anyway, he has only been in Xianshu sect for a few days, and there is nothing to deal with in the outer gate. Simply don't delay it, and report to the inner gate General Affairs early tomorrow. He is very fortunate now that he was assigned this cave at that time, and he didn't spend too much energy to take care of this cave, otherwise it would be a waste. Originally, he made himself a pot of spiritual tea, and planned to start practicing after drinking it, but unfortunately, people came to visit him one after another. The first to come were the 5 brothers of the Song family next door. After they sat for a while, Guo Shuking, who led them that day, also came. Since others came to visit, Lin Changqing must come forward to entertain them. But he didn't have anything good now, only the red sun dates and ordinary second-level spiritual tea. 6 or 7 people sat together and chatted. In fact, more of them were praising Lin Changqing's strength. After a while, Yikai and Zhao Chuanghe came over unexpectedly, and this time it was even more lively. Basically, all the cultivators who had a little friendship with Lin Changqing when he came to Xianshu sect were here. In fact, everyone's intention to come here was very obvious, just to make friends with Lin Changqing and have the opportunity to team up together in the future. After all, everyone has seen Lin Changqing's strength, and for them, he is already a very powerful existence. As a fellow disciple with a little friendship, if you don't seize the opportunity this time and make good friends, you are really stupid. Because there are too many guests, and there are too many people, it's impossible to talk about too in-depth things, so everyone talks about some interesting stories or shares some news of the sect. Maybe they also know that the time is not right. After expressing enough willingness, they didn't stay with Lin Changqing for too long, and left in about an hour. This made Lin Changqing breathe a sigh of relief. There is no way. If you want to stay in the sect, you must have some connections. This is inevitable. Chapter 636 Senior Brother's Advice. Lin Changqing had no interest or ability to make friends with others. But he could choose some suitable friends from those fellow disciples who came up to him. In this way, he would not appear weak in the sect. Moreover, he could also increase some spies in disguise. If there was anything in the sect, he would have a source of information. After sorting out his thoughts, he began to review today's 2 matches and found that he still had some problems in the second match. First of all, he was careless and underestimated the enemy. If he had used the Divine Thunder to attack the opponent immediately at the beginning, there would be no later events. He was still too young, and he was still a little embarrassed on the stage in front of everyone, so he suffered a lot of losses. Secondly, he lacked the means to see through the invisible opponents, although Chu-Ai, Amethyst Scorpion, and Shocking Cicada were all capable of dealing with invisible enemies. But there were also some special occasions where they were not suitable to appear, just like today, so Lin Changqing still had to have conventional means to break the invisibility. In fact, he had such things ready in his hands. It was the eyes of the 2 three-eyed thunder apes. Lin Changqing believed that this should be the spiritual object that could break the invisibility. But now, there are only 3 material spiritual materials. He needs to find an opportunity to ask the inner sex refiner to help him refine it into a 3rd-level magic weapon. I just don't know if the cost of asking them to do it is high, but there is no rush. After a while, when Lin Changqing has established his foothold and figured out the way, he will do this thing, so as not to be cheated by such precious spiritual materials. Another thing is that he can actually use the 3rd-level thunder attribute magic weapon, so he can pay attention to collecting it in the future. When the time comes, Lin Changqing will have a few thunder attribute magic weapons in his hands, and his strength will definitely increase many times instantly. I just don't know where I can get them in the sect. If I can, it will be a good opportunity to quickly increase my strength. The next morning, Lin Changqing completed the normal practice tasks and packed up his things again. He set off for the inner gate. In fact, there is no obvious boundary between the inner gate and the outer gate. It's just that the location of the outer gate is relatively peripheral on the entire island. But the activities of the outer disciples are generally not too close to the inner gate area, so it seems a bit clear. But the inner gate is indeed far away. Lin Changqing flew for 2 or 3 hours on his sword before he entered the inner gate. He flew directly to the inner gate's General Affairs Hall, whose location he had already found out yesterday. In fact, the General Affairs Hall of the inner gate is still very dialectical. The shape is similar to that of the outer gate, but it is just a little bigger overall. And the inner disciples of the Xianshu sect are constantly going in and out there, so Lin Changqing only took a look and knew that he had not found the wrong place. So he suppressed the sword light and landed directly in the small square in front of the General Affairs Hall. But Lin Changqing is now wearing the clothes of an outer disciple, and it is still quite abrupt to suddenly appear here. So immediately a disciple on duty stepped forward and asked, "Junior brother, are you one of the top 10 disciples in this outer sect competition?" Since someone came forward to ask, Lin Changqing had to answer, so he nodded and said, "Hello, senior brother." Junior brother is the disciple who was lucky enough to get the chance to enter the inner sect this time, and I came here specially to report to the inner sect today. After saying that, he also specially showed the certificate given by the outer sect elder yesterday. The man scanned the credentials with his spiritual sense, and after confirming that there was no problem, he nodded and said, "In that case, there is no problem. New disciples must report to Uncle Ranming, including the selection of new cave dwellings, all of which are handled by Uncle Ranming. He is now at the back of the General Affairs Hall. You can go in and find him yourself." Lin Changqing's heart moved, and he quickly said, "Thank you for your guidance, senior brother. May I ask, Does Uncle Ranming have any special hobbies? When the disciple on duty heard this, he couldn't help but look at Lin Changqing again. Obviously, he didn't expect that this new disciple would be so eye-catching. So he suddenly wanted to make a good relationship, so he opened his mouth again and said, "Junior brother is a wonderful person. He can actually think of asking questions in this regard. It seems that he is also a kind-hearted person, so I will be a good person to the end and give you a little hint. Uncle Ranming has two major hobbies in his life. One is refining equipment, but he doesn't like to refine those common spiritual tools or magic weapons. Instead, he likes to refine some unique spiritual products or magic weapons, so the probability of successful refining is really touching. Another hobby is drinking. As long as it is a high-grade spiritual wine, no matter what kind it is, Uncle Ranming likes it. If you happen to have spiritual wine in your hand, just take it out and give it to him. Of course, he will definitely not take your things for nothing." When Lin Changqing heard that he actually spoke so carefully, he knew that the other person was intentionally helping him. So he said gratefully, "Junior brother Lin Changqing, thank you for your advice. I don't know what your name is. I will treat you to tea when I have the chance in the future." When the man heard him say this, he knew that Lin Changqing wanted to repay him, so he said, "My surname is Chen, and my name is Shushen. You should go to Uncle Ranming to report quickly. If you want to treat me to tea, there will always be a chance in the future. Remember to go straight inside after entering the General Affairs Hall, and don't pay attention to the counters queuing. Go directly to the innermost part and explain your purpose to the disciples on duty at the door. They will naturally take you to see Uncle Ranming." After hearing such a detailed explanation, Lin Changqing expressed his gratitude to him again, and then entered the General Affairs Hall. In fact, at this time, Lin Changqing was still very hesitant. The spiritual wine in his hand, except for the red fruit wine, could not be touched. There was only some left, which was the first-level fruit wine brewed by Su Mingyang herself at that time. This should be the leftovers from the banquet for the elders in the clan land in the past. Add to that some of the spoils of war spirit wines found in other people's storage bags, both first and second grade. But only 7 or 8 bottles in total. But the problem is, would it be too shabby to give this grade of spirit wine to Giant and Cultivator? It's a bit embarrassing. However, Lin Changqing is slightly capable of satisfying another hobby of this uncle who he has not met yet. After all, there are still several corpses of third-grade monsters in his spirit beast bracelet, so he is fully capable of getting a third-grade material. But after thinking about it, he still can't make up his mind. What should he give? Chapter 637 3 Requests. Finally, it was decided that after the meeting, we would deal with it flexibly according to the actual situation. So after entering the General Affairs Hall, he followed the exchange of the senior brother Chen just now and went directly to the innermost position. When he first came in, there were many inner disciples who were queuing up, constantly looking at him, but Lin Changqing didn't care. After he reported, he was the same as them, so there was really nothing to see. He showed his credentials to the 2 disciples guarding the door and directly explained his purpose. So soon, Lin Changqing was taken to a courtyard in the back by one of them and met the Uncle Ranming. After the disciple who led the way reported, Lin Changqing immediately stepped forward and greeted him. "Disciple Lin Changqing, meet Uncle Ranming." At this time, the middle-aged monk lying on the recliner heard them talking, and then he looked at him with drunken eyes. Then he asked drunkenly, "Boy, what do you want so early in the morning?" Even if the 2 sides were more than 10 feet away from each other, Lin Changqing could smell the smell of alcohol, which shows how much this Uncle Ranming likes to drink. So Lin Changqing immediately smiled and said, "I am lucky to be among the top 10 in this outer sect competition. I am here to report to my uncle today. I heard that you like to drink, and I happen to have some spirit wine in my hand, so I will give it to you." After that, he took a few steps up and took out all the dozen bottles of spirit wine in his hand, whether it was first level or second level spirit wine, and put them on the table. When Ranming heard what Lin Changqing said, he saw the spirit wine on the table again. He couldn't help laughing and said, "Good boy, it seems that this time, there is another little rascal in the inner sect. Okay, I like smart little guys like you who understand the ways of the world. At least when walking outside, you won't suffer losses in this. Give me your entry certificate and the original outer sect identity jade card." After listening to his uncle's words, Lin Changqing could only smile and say nothing, then respectfully handed the things over, and waited quietly beside him. After a while, Lin Changqing got a new identity jade card representing the inner sect disciple. including his remaining 2,800 sect contribution points. They were also transferred to the new identity Jade card. Lin Changqing knew that he had to perform the ritual on the spot, so he did it immediately without being told. After a while, he successfully completed the ritual. At this time, he was already considered an inner disciple. After he finished, Master Ranming took out another circle and threw it directly to Lin Changqing. Then he said, "The next step is to choose a cave. On this map, there are areas for your new disciples to practice and live. Since you are so smart, I will show it to you directly. Study it yourself and choose a suitable location. Think about it carefully if you want to go there. Don't say that I drank your spiritual wine and didn't take care of you. The darker the color on the map in your hand, the more abundant the spiritual energy there is. And the blue dots on it mean that someone has already chosen it. All the places within a radius of 3 miles with that blue dot as the center cannot be chosen first. You can focus on the locations of the white dots on it, which are not chosen by anyone yet. Some of these are ready-made caves, which have either been moved to better locations or have died for various reasons. So their caves were taken back by the sect. Of course, this has nothing to do with you. Now I will give you 2/4 of an hour to consider which location you want to choose." After listening, Lin Changqing nodded, and then quickly unfolded the map, and immediately saw the geographical environment of some areas of the inner gate very intuitively. However, the colors on the map were different shades, and there were many places where blue and white were interlaced. This made him choose a location within 2/4 of an hour, which was a bit too hasty. Besides, he had a lot of requirements. It would be more reliable to ask Uncle Ranming for guidance than to let him find it himself. So he took out a relatively large jade box from the storage bag and placed it on the table next to Uncle Ranming. Then he said, "Uncle Master, this is a spiritual material I got by chance. It is useless in my hands. It should contain feathers from a 3rd-level black-feathered black thunderbird. I heard that Uncle Master likes to refine equipment, so I give it to you as a material for practicing." After hearing this, Ranming finally opened his eyes this time, and took a serious look at Lin Changqing, and then said, "You cunning boy, you are willing to spend it. A 3rd-level spiritual bird feather, even the most ordinary one, will cost 20,000 to 30,000 low-grade spirit stones. In addition, it is a spiritual material with thunder attribute, and the price will at least double. You kid, this is a big investment. Tell me what you want to do." Lin Changqing said with a smile, "Uncle Master, you are really a wise man, and nothing can be hidden from you. But I don't have any other intentions, I just want to ask you for advice." Hearing this, Ranming couldn't help but roll his eyes at him and said, All right. Stop brainwashing me, kid, tell me what you want to do." Lin Changqing also knew that his uncle was a little impatient, so he quickly said, "Disciple wants to find a relatively quiet environment. It would be best if there are not so many fellow disciples around, because I have some spiritual insects and spiritual pets, and it is not suitable for too many people to see them. Secondly, it would be best if there is a place where I can open up a spiritual field of more than 10 or 20 acres, that would be the best. Finally, needless to say, it must be the location of the cave. The more abundant the spiritual energy, the better. That's about it, there is nothing else." After listening to his request, Ranming was a little speechless. I couldn't help but look at him again and said, "Of the 3 requests you raised, except for the first one which is more difficult to do, the other 2 are nothing. It's not worth your investment at all. But since the things have been taken out, I won't refund them. But you get what you pay for. I will definitely find a good place for you. Who told me that I'll like you? I don't know if you are really lucky or just got lucky by accident. I do have a good place here, which I just took back recently and has not been marked on the map yet. However, that place meets your requirements very well, even far exceeds your requirements. But there are some small troubles there. I wonder if you dare to take this place." Chapter 638 Small Trouble Big Trouble. When Lin Changqing heard that there was trouble, he didn't want to accept it at all. He just wanted to find a place where he could practice in peace, not to help solve the trouble. So he shook his head and said, "Uncle Master, I have low skills and little arms and legs, and I don't have any ability to deal with the little trouble you mentioned. You'd better help me find a similar place. It doesn't have to be too good, otherwise I'm afraid I can't bear it." Ranming glared at him directly. The pressure from the giant and cultivator was no joke, although Lin Changqing had come into contact with several giant and real people. But now, he really didn't dare to offend the cultivator of this level casually, although the one in front of him was his nominal uncle. So Lin Changqing did what he wanted directly, but before agreeing, he still had to know what this cave was all about. So he said with a grin, "Uncle Master, if you want your disciple to choose that place, you should at least tell me what kind of troubles there are. If the opponent is above the great perfection of foundation establishment, I really can't handle it." After hearing this, Ranming looked at him with a smile, and then explained, "Don't worry. You can definitely handle it. I know you, the famous little thunder god from the outer sect. With the strength you have shown, you should be regarded as the most powerful in this competition. Including many ordinary inner sect disciples, they are not your opponents at all." When Lin Changqing heard the 3 words little thunder god, his face turned a little red. It was really that his strength was not worthy of these 3 words at all. So he quickly changed the subject and said, "Uncle, you'd better tell me what's going on with that cave. Otherwise, no matter what you say, I dare not agree to it casually." Ranming nodded this time, thought for a while and said, "That place is called Qian Valley. It's only about 3 or 4 miles in size. So there is only one inner disciple arranged there, and the location there is very good, close to a 4th order branch, enough for you to practice to the golden core stage. It used to be the cave of a registered disciple of mine, so his whole family lived there. But a year ago, my registered disciple unfortunately died at the hands of the demon cub of the Blood Sea sect. Therefore, according to the rules of the sect, no matter whether it is an inner or outer disciple, after the death, the cave will be taken back by the sect after 1 year. And their family members, if they are not disciples of the sect, can only leave and make a living. So I want you not to drive away the remaining orphans and widows, and leave them a way to live." Lin Changqing was relieved after hearing this. If that was all, it would really be just a small trouble. At that time, we will set aside an area in Qian Valley for them to live. As long as they don't disturb him, he still has some tolerance. Moreover, that place was originally someone's cave. If he really drove everyone out, he would still feel a little guilty. After thinking it through in an instant, Lin Changqing said, "If it is really as Uncle Master said, then I will set aside an area for them to live on their own. As long as they don't disturb me at ordinary times, it will be fine." Uncle Master Ranming listened and laughed, "That's fine. But the little trouble I mentioned is not this one. Otherwise, why did I praise you for your strong fighting power just now? If it is really just this little trouble, I can find anyone to solve it. How can it be your turn to take advantage of it?" Hearing this, Lin Changqing sighed in his heart. He really didn't want to provoke these messy troubles. But now that he has encountered them, it is estimated that Ranming, the old drunkard, will not let him get away so easily. So he simply asked, "What is the trouble? Uncle Master, just tell me." At this point, there is no point in hiding it. Ranming heard Lin Changqing's tone and knew that he was probably scolding him in his heart, but as long as he could solve this problem, it would be okay to scold him in his heart. So after laughing twice, he still said, "The alchemist Wei Laoge, his son has taken a fancy to Li Xiangting. That is the daughter of my registered disciple, but unfortunately Wei Laoge's son is not a good thing either. He should have practiced the art of collecting yin to replenish yang, so his cultivation has increased rapidly in the past 10 years. If Li Xiangting falls into his hands, it is estimated that she will be directly reduced to cauldron, and she will die soon. After all, they are the children of my registered disciple, and he used to show filial piety to me, so I can't just ignore them." Hearing this, Lin Changqing already knew what was going on, and couldn't help but feel a headache. What he least wanted to get involved in was this kind of bullshit. Especially when it involves the children of the high-level people in the sect, the trouble will be even greater. If he doesn't do it right, he will be trapped. So no matter what, he will not accept it. At most, he can just find a cave. So he was about to open his mouth and refuse directly. Unexpectedly, Master Ranming continued to say, "I know that you definitely don't want to cause such a big trouble for a stranger. But I promise you that you just need to protect Li Xiangting and prevent a bad boy of the Wei family from playing tricks. As a giant cultivator, Wei Laoge will not pay attention to the affairs of you low-priced cultivators. Besides, he is usually busy with alchemy and rarely leaves his alchemy room. If he really shows up, I will naturally deal with him and guarantee that you will not be implicated. And in the future, you can still walk in the sect under the name of my registered disciple." "What are my conditions?" When Lin Changqing heard this, he quickly weighed in his mind. If it was just to protect Li Xiangting and prevent a cultivator of the same level from playing tricks, and there was no need for a head-on conflict, he could agree. So he said, "If it's just like this, I can agree to it, but there has to be a deadline. I can't protect her all my life, right? Besides, I plan to take a mission to the border in a while, so I won't be able to protect her forever." After hearing this, Ranming felt a headache, and then he suddenly had an idea and said to Lin Changqing, "The daughter of my nominal disciple is very beautiful. She is so beautiful that she can even make fish sink to the bottom of the water and geese fall to the ground. It's just that her spiritual roots are a little lacking. How about you consider taking her in? In that case, if the bad boy surnamed Wei dares to hit on her again, you can openly drag him to the life and death stage of the sect to resolve grudges. Even if you don't kill the boy, you can give him a good beating to make him remember it. What do you think?" Chapter 639, Divine Water Island. Lin Changqing was speechless for a moment. This unreliable drunkard uncle really did whatever he wanted. He felt that he was really unlucky today, so he had to provoke this drunkard. He had just come to this world, and just wanted to find a stable place to settle down, and then practice with peace of mind. Now Lin Changqing was in no mood to look for a woman. He had long understood the truth that being too affectionate was tiring. And that Wei guy was obviously not a good guy. What's the point of beating up such a person? In Lin Changqing's opinion, either don't move, or if you want to move, you must kill him directly. If you can't kill him, you will leave an enemy who will always be thinking about you. Others will definitely look for opportunities to take revenge deliberately, and you can't defend yourself at all. So beating up others is really the stupidest behavior, it's just looking for your own death. But after all, he was a giant and cultivator, so Lin Changqing still didn't dare to contradict him casually, so he shook his head and said, "Thank you for your kindness, uncle. But I already have a Taoist partner, and I don't want to do anything that would let her down. So, uncle, don't mention this kind of thing again in the future. Let's talk about the deadline for protecting Li Xiangting." Hearing that Lin Changqing rejected his proposal, the old drunkard was a little bored, closed his eyes and said lightly, "At least 20 years. If you want to leave the sect to do a mission, remember to tell me in advance, I will arrange someone to watch her." After speaking, he raised his hand and took the map back to his hand, then marked it on it, and marked Lin Changqing's information. Lin Changqing heard that he had to protect her for 20 years, and he was still a little resistant. However, seeing the look of the drunk uncle, he probably wouldn't bargain with him anymore, so he didn't say anything anymore, and tacitly agreed to the 20-year agreement. After Ranming finished the map, he continued, "I have marked your cave information. And since you want to go to the border to do the mission, you probably won't, so choose the island that supports yourself now. So your report is completed, I will let Xiaojiu take you to Qian Valley now. As for the rest of the Li family's affairs, you can find out by yourself after you get there. I won't waste any more words with you." Lin Changqing quickly agreed. He didn't want to stay here anymore and couldn't wait to leave. So the drunk uncle summoned the fellow who brought Lin Changqing in just now. Then he gave 2 instructions and was ready to take Lin Changqing away. But before Lin Changqing left, the drunk uncle threw him another storage bag. Although he didn't say anything more, Lin Changqing knew that it should be the benefits he should receive when he entered the inner gate. He didn't know what was in it yet, but it should be similar to the last time. There should be at least 2 pieces of clothing for inner disciples in it, that's for sure. As for other things, he would have to wait until he had time to check them carefully. Then the 2 of them left the General Affairs Hall, and then flew southeastward on swords one after the other. But this flight took more than an hour. Along the way, Lin Changqing saw many scattered courtyards, probably one every few miles. And some courtyards were covered by formations. They saw at least hundreds of such courtyards along the way. This was just a straight line, and there were so many, and the area they were flying in was not close to the 7 main peaks of the sect. It can even be said that it was still far away, equivalent to being just at the outer edge of the inner gate. From this, it can be seen how vast and huge the Shenshu Island, where the Xianshu sect is located, is. Finally, Lin Changqing and the other 2 flew into a small valley surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. And the mountains around this small valley are not too high, estimated to be only about 100 or 200 feet high. 3 small hills of similar size intertwined to form this valley, although Lin Changqing did not understand Feng Shui. But it can be seen that this is a wonderful place. Although he didn't know what was good about it, he only knew that he felt very comfortable as soon as he entered here. With such an obvious feeling, Lin Changqing believed that he would not be wrong. This must be a good place. And now this small valley is also covered by a second-order magic array. In this way, The situation inside the valley cannot be seen from the outside, which has the flavor of a world of its own. So Lin Changqing and the others could only wait outside the valley after triggering the magic array. During the gap when the two were waiting, the fellow disciple who led the way saw that there was not much expression on Lin Changqing's face. He was probably still thinking about what happened just now. He knew that it should be Uncle Ranming who talked to him about something, and then entrusted Brother Li's family to this new disciple. But it seems that this new fellow disciple is not very happy. So he couldn't help but said to Lin Changqing, "Junior brother. Actually, Uncle Ranming is a very good person. Uncle Ranming is very caring towards us low-level disciples. You will know after you have the opportunity to get in touch with him more in the future." After listening to this, Lin Changqing instantly understood what he meant, and couldn't help but chuckled and said, "Thank you for your advice, brother. I'll remember it." Just at this time, a crack suddenly appeared on the barrier of the formation, and then a 13 or 14-year-old, handsome little guy came out to greet them. After seeing the two, he hurriedly opened his mouth to greet them. "Hello Uncle Zhao, hello Uncle Zhao. Please come in, uncles." After the two entered the formation, the fellow who led the way smiled and touched the little guy's head. Then he said, "Uncle Ranming, Qian Valley is assigned to this junior brother Lin. Where are your mother and sister? I brought you a message from Uncle Ranming." When the little guy heard about this matter, he couldn't help but feel a little worried, and couldn't help but look at Lin Changqing with a little awe. Then he replied respectfully, "Mother and sister are already at the gate of the yard, welcoming the two uncles. Let's go in now." The two nodded, and then began to walk to the innermost part of the valley. In fact, after Lin Changqing entered the valley, he had already scanned it with his spiritual sense, and had already seen the location of the mother and daughter. And he already had a general understanding of the situation of the entire valley. Generally speaking, it was well managed, and Lin Changqing was very satisfied. It can be seen that the original owner was very attentive and managed the entire valley very well. Chapter 640, Qian Valley. Lin Changqing saw that in the center of the valley, there were about 20 to 30 mu of spiritual fields. Near the bottom of the valley, there was a small courtyard with 3 entrances. At this time, there were 2 pretty figures standing quietly at the gate of the courtyard. In addition, the little guy who led the way for them. I think the remaining orphans of Uncle Ranming's registered disciples are these 3 people. It was only 3 or 4 miles away, and it was not long before they arrived. Lin Changqing had been observing all the way. He found that there were many unknown flowers planted in the valley. At this time, there were many butterflies and bees flying around among the flowers. And in the valley, there were several spiritual fruit trees, but they were all first-level spiritual plants, very common spiritual peach trees and spiritual apricot trees. But these flowers and fruit trees embellished the entire valley, making it very warm and full of vitality. As for the spiritual energy, let alone. When Lin Changqing stepped into here, he already felt that the spiritual energy in this valley was much richer than that outside. So this is definitely an excellent place for cultivation. Seeing this, Lin Changqing finally believed what the drunk uncle said about this place. It is indeed a very good place, and it can be seen that it is well managed. Even if Lin Changqing comes by himself, there is no way to manage it so well. This makes him no longer so resistant to leaving the orphans of the Li family. He has made up his mind that as long as the orphans of the Li family don't act so unreliable, Lin Changqing is ready to keep them and try to be nice to them. Of course, the task of taking care of Qian Valley must be given to them. When Lin Changqing and his friends approached the yard, the 2 pretty figures immediately came forward to greet them. "Hello, Uncle Zhao, and this uncle." "Hello, Uncle Zhao, and this uncle. Please go to the living room for tea." Lin Changqing saw the mother and daughter with his own eyes, and couldn't help but exclaim in his heart that the 2 people were indeed very lovely. It should be because she is a cultivator. This young woman looks like she is about 30 years old, and she is lovable. It's just that now, because of the worry on her face, she looks a little pale. The other girl, who is about 17 or 18 years old and has a similar face, is also very beautiful, but she is still relatively young. But for a girl who can make the son of a certain giant and elder never forget her, you can imagine how outstanding her appearance is. Anyway, her appearance is not worse than Shenzai and Muzai Oxio. On the contrary, because of her gentle temperament, people can't help but want to bully her after seeing her. When the 5 people entered the living room, Lin Changqing sat down in the main seat without hesitation, and senior brother Zhao, who led the way, sat in the guest seat. The girl just now left to make tea after entering the door, and the remaining two mothers and sons automatically sat down at the bottom. Senior brother Zhao began to chat with them until the girl served spiritual tea to everyone and sat down in the last seat. Senior brother Zhao organized his words and said, "Okay. Everyone is here, so there's one thing I want to tell you. Senior brother Li has passed away for more than a year. According to the sect's rules, Qian Valley should be reclaimed and assigned to new disciples. You should have known about this situation and should be mentally prepared. And today, Uncle Ranming has assigned Qian Valley to the new junior brother Lin Changqing, and entrusted you to junior brother Lin's care. Now you can officially get to know each other." The family of three below heard what Uncle Zhao said, and they quickly stood up and saluted Lin Changqing very respectfully. Junior Murin Qingyan, greetings to Uncle Lin. Junior Li Xiangting, greetings to Uncle Lin. Junior Li Qinchuan, greetings to Uncle Lin. Lin Changqing nodded and said lightly, "Okay, I already know you. We will definitely meet often in the future, so you don't have to be so polite. Sit down." "Yes, yes, yes." At this time, Senior brother Zhao suddenly asked, "Junior brother Lin, after all this journey, you should have a basic understanding of Qian Valley. I wonder how you want to arrange for their family of three." Lin Changqing knew that this senior brother Zhao was now talking to him on behalf of the drunken uncle. So he thought about it for a while before speaking. "How about this? I just looked all the way here. I found that this Qian Valley is well managed by the three of them. Then let them continue to take care of it in the future, including the 20 or 30 acres of spiritual fields. Let them take care of them. However, I will take 40% of the output of the entire Qian Valley, and the remaining 60% will be left to them for maintenance and cultivation. What do you think of my arrangement, Brother Zhao?" Brother Zhao on the other side heard it and knew that the distribution plan given by Lin Changqing was already very considerate of this family. It is estimated that this junior brother Lin also gave such a favorable distribution plan for the sake of Uncle Ranming's face. Moreover, the three people of the Li family were very excited after hearing what Lin Changqing said, and all of them showed grateful expressions. So Brother Zhao himself agreed with this distribution ratio very much. So he couldn't help but smile and said, "Junior brother Lin is really kind. Your distribution plan is much better than what I expected just now. How do you want to arrange other aspects, Junior brother Lin?" Lin Changqing sensed it and confirmed that the place where this courtyard is located is the place with the richest spiritual energy in the entire valley. So he said again, "I don't need to say much about the location of this courtyard. Senior brother Zhao should also know what's going on. So I can't give it to them. Then I can only ask them to build a similar small courtyard in a slightly farther location. As for the safety of Miss Xiangting, as long as she doesn't leave the valley privately, I will guarantee her safety. I believe she should also know that someone is plotting against her. As for who it is, there is no need to say more. So if you must leave here, you must tell me first. At that time, I will naturally have the corresponding means to ensure her safety." Hearing what Lin Changqing said, Senior brother Zhao was also very satisfied. At least this junior brother Lin made the most important issues clear. Then he would feel relieved. He only needed to repeat it once when he returned, and he would have an explanation to Uncle Ranming and the deceased senior brother Li. So senior brother Zhao smiled and nodded, approving Lin Changqing's two arrangements. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 641 Identity Issues. After hearing this, Li Xiangting, who was below, stood up with a blushing face and said to Lin Changqing and the others, "Thank you, Uncle Master Lin and Uncle Master Zhao, for your protection. Xiangting will try not to leave here in the future, so as not to bring unnecessary trouble to the two uncles and Grandmaster Ranming." After hearing this, Zhao and Lin couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. The world of cultivating immortals is so weak and strong. If you don't have the strength, relying on others is the best outcome. But when Brother Zhao heard her say this, he couldn't help but comfort her and said, "Xiangting, you don't have to stay in the valley all the time. If you want to go out on the future, just tell your Uncle Master Lin, or when your Uncle Master Lin goes out, you just follow him. I believe that with a little beauty like you following him, he will definitely not refuse. He is the #1 master in this outer sect competition, and he is nicknamed Little Thunder God, Especially in the final defense battle, he only fought 2 games before others dared not challenge him on stage again. You can imagine how powerful he is. So if that rubbish surnamed Wei really dares to come over, junior brother Lin can easily beat him to pulp. Junior brother Changqing, tell me, am I right? After hearing this, Lin Changqing couldn't help but roll his eyes at him. It turned out that this senior brother Zhao was also a person who liked to watch the fun and not mind the trouble. The idea he came up with was obviously to lure out the guy surnamed Wei through Li Xiangting, and then use Lin Changqing's hand to teach him a lesson. This idea was exactly the same as that of the drunkard uncle. Sure enough, they were all in the same group, always thinking about causing trouble for Lin Changqing. So Lin Changqing didn't respond at all. Senior brother Zhao could say whatever he wanted. He just promised to protect Li Xiangting and prevent others from playing tricks. He didn't promise them anything else. Besides, Lin Changqing didn't plan to cause too much trouble for himself. Therefore, Lin Changqing just regarded what senior brother Zhao said as a piece of nonsense and just let it go. However, the 3 people from the Li family, after hearing Lin Changqing's brilliant achievements, immediately looked at him with new eyes, and at the same time, they also vaguely understood in their hearts. This Uncle Lin, who looked very young, turned out to be a powerful person. They also understood why Grandmaster Ranming would arrange his cave residence in Qian Valley and entrust his family to him. So the 3 people from the Li family could not help but respect and fear Lin Changqing more from the bottom of their hearts. After all, he really had the ability to protect their family. However, Lin Changqing did not have time to figure out what the 3 people from the Li family were thinking. He only wanted to take over Qian Valley smoothly. Then settle down earlier, and he can also start to practice with peace of mind. You must know that although he has practiced the Thunder Sutra to the Purple Mansion stage, but this time, the 109 Thunder acupoints on his body have not been expanded. He must complete this task as soon as possible and try to expand the Thunder acupoint to a larger size so that it can accommodate more Thunder mana. Without hearing Lin Changqing's response, senior brother Zhao knew that he couldn't fool him. So he could only change the topic. He continued to say, since junior brother Changqing has solved most of the problems, then the last thing we need to do is to solve the identity issues of the 3 of them, and we'll be done. Hearing this, the 3 members of the Li family looked at the 2 nervously. When Lin Changqing first heard it, he was also stunned for a moment, and then he thought about it and understood what was going on. After all, that senior brother Li has been dead for more than a year. In theory, the remaining 3 members of the Li family have nothing to do with the Xianshu sect. So they can continue to stay in the Xianshu sect according to the regulations. They should leave here and go out to make a living. Unless someone accepts them again and gives them a suitable and reasonable identity, so that their family can continue to stay here. However, Lin Changqing has no experience in this kind of thing, so he doesn't know how to deal with it. So he asked directly, in senior brother Zhao's opinion, how should this problem be solved? Senior brother Zhao glanced at Lin Changqing and the 3 members of the Li family, and then said, according to the rules of the sect, the inner disciples' caves are only allowed to be occupied by the disciples' relatives and the disciples accepted by the inner disciples. Hearing this, Lin Changqing's eyes widened instantly, and his heart was filled with anger. He found that he was calculated by the old drunkard Ranming. This is the rhythm of tying the 3 members of the Li family to him. It can't be a disguised way to pull himself into their faction. Lin Changqing's mood changed, and the atmosphere on the scene suddenly became tense. All the rest of the people did not dare to speak again, and the air seemed to condense instantly. Everyone was silent for about a quarter of an hour, and senior brother Zhao couldn't help but say, junior brother Changqing, although Xiangting and Qinchuan's spiritual roots are relatively poor, but they practice very hard, and they will have a chance to succeed in building a foundation in the future. And with their character, they will definitely respect their junior brothers in the future. So junior brother, you should think about it seriously. When Lin Changqing heard this, he couldn't help but roll his eyes at him and said, then senior brother Zhao, you speak so well of them, why don't you come forward to accept them as disciples? After hearing this, senior brother Zhao laughed dryly twice, and then he said, I don't have the ability of my junior brother. I don't have the ability to protect them. So Uncle Ranming chose, and this matter finally fell on junior brother's head. When Lin Changqing heard this, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He knew that he was really calculated by that old drunkard. It is estimated that even if he goes back and tells him that he doesn't want this Qian Valley, it will definitely not work. Because the information has been registered on the map, The old drunkard will never let him get off halfway. For the first time, he hated his low level of cultivation. If he had reached the golden core stage, he would have gone to fight with the old drunkard and made him sober up. Unfortunately, now, Lin Changqing only had the cultivation level of the late foundation establishment stage. Although he had cultivated the Thunder Sutra to the Purple Mansion stage, he did not have any Thunder attribute magic weapon in his hand. If he went there now, he would definitely not be able to defeat the old drunkard, and might even be severely beaten by him. So he could only temporarily put his heart in check and not argue with the old drunkard now. He looked at the three people from the Li family, and after taking a look at them, he asked, "You three, tell me about your spiritual roots and the general situation." The meaning of Lin Changqing's words was actually very obvious, so the three people from the Li family looked very excited. Chapter 642 Falling Out. After hearing Lin Changqing's question, Reincarnated was the first to speak. "Uncle Changqing, I have 4 spiritual roots of wood, water, fire and earth. Now I am at the 8th level of key refining, which is considered a late-stage spiritual plant master." Seeing her mother finished speaking, Li Changqing continued to say, "Uncle Changqing, I have 5 spiritual roots. Now I am at the 5th level of key refining, and I am also a spiritual plant master, but I have just started." Finally, it was Lin Changqing who said a little embarrassedly, "Uncle Changqing, I also have 5 spiritual roots. I am 4 years younger than my sister. Although I am not a spiritual plant master, I usually help my mother and sister, mainly to organize the spiritual fields and the flowers and plants in the valley. Now I only have the 3rd level of key refining, but in at most 3 months, I can break through to the 4th level of key refining." After speaking, she looked at Lin Changqing with expectation. As for Lin Changqing, after hearing about the spiritual roots of the 3 people in the Li family, he was instantly speechless. No wonder the old drunkard had no choice. With the spiritual roots of the 3 people, there was no possibility for them to join the Xianshu sect, unless they were as powerful as him. But this possibility was extremely rare, so they could already see the end of their lives. If there was no great adventure, at best, they could only cultivate to the late stage of the foundation building period. No wonder no one dared to take over from senior brother Zhao. It was really not worthwhile to accept such a disciple. Even if they could live to the end of their lives, it was Lin Changqing who sent them. This was another version of the old man sending the black man away. And not everyone had the opportunity that Lin Changqing had. And even if Lin Changqing really accepted one of them as a disciple, he couldn't pass on the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra or the Thunder Sutra now. So for them, this was equivalent to falling into a dead loop, but these things were not what Lin Changqing should consider. Among the 3 people, he first excluded Reincarnated, although her spiritual roots were the best. But she should be older than himself, so it was not suitable for her to be a disciple. The second person to be excluded was Li Changqing, who was the source of all the troubles. If she was accepted as a disciple, it would be equivalent to taking on all the troubles. This would definitely be what the old drunkard and the senior brother Zhao wanted, so Lin Changqing would definitely not choose her as a disciple. Therefore, after excluding the 2 people, there was no choice in the end, and it could only be Lin Changqing. So Lin Changqing said lightly, "Then I will be Lin Changqing, the master in all senses. Others are not suitable, so forget it." Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, Lin Changqing ran in front of Lin Changqing, knelt down, and kowtowed 3 times. Then he shouted loudly, "Disciple Lin Changqing, meet the master." He did this, which was a bit like a done deal, but Lin Changqing still liked this thick-skinned and smart little guy very much. And since he had already kowtowed and called him master, Lin Changqing couldn't just not show any expression. So he casually took out a low-grade spiritual weapon flying sword from his storage bag and threw it directly to Lin Changqing. Then he encouraged, "Although we are only nominal master and apprentice, I'll give you this gift. I hope you practice seriously, and then advance to the foundation building stage as soon as possible, and support your family." Lin Changqing heard Lin Changqing's words of encouragement, and coupled with the situation and feelings over the past year, his throat choked up instantly. And all of a sudden, he was so excited that he couldn't speak, and could only nod desperately to Lin Changqing. As for Reincarnated and Li Changqing, although Lin Changqing did not choose them, they were also surprised at this time, and thanked him repeatedly. Seeing this result, senior brother Zhao also knew that this was Lin Changqing's biggest concession. Although it was not the result they wanted, it could only be like this. So he said, "That's it. Qingchuan doesn't need to say it. I will help Xiangting and the others change their identity jade cards into miscellaneous identity jade cards, and don't let them go out casually in the future." Lin Changqing was stunned for a moment when he heard it, and then he opened his eyes wide again, and his heart was burning with anger again. He was calculated again. Lin Changqing couldn't help wanting to curse, and even wanted to use Palm Thunder to hide him. Since this Zhao guy can handle the identity jade card of the errand boy, why did he say those things just now? Now he really doesn't want to care about these bird people. They will only bully him because he has just entered the sect and doesn't understand these messy sect rules, which gives them a loophole. So Lin Changqing didn't want to entangle with them anymore, otherwise others will suffer. So his face instantly turned cold, and he said coldly, "Brother Zhao, do you have anything else? If not, I am very tired today and want to rest first, so I won't keep you." Lin Changqing's words were already very impolite, equivalent to issuing a direct order to expel the guests. At this point, the two sides can be said to be almost tearing their faces apart. So the atmosphere in the living room suddenly became tense again. Brother Zhao didn't expect that Lin Changqing would turn his face and expel the guests directly. So after being humiliated in this way, his face instantly flushed. But he also knew that he was indeed in the wrong this time. So he just said goodbye, coldly, and then turned and left. Muren Qingyan glanced at Lin Changqing, and seeing that he had no intention of stopping him, she dared to get up and send him out. When Muren Qingyan came back, Lin Changqing opened his mouth and ordered, "You go in and pack up your things, and clear the place for me. Then move to the first courtyard to live first, and move there when your courtyard is built in the future. If there is nothing special in the future, don't come to disturb me. In particular, I have some spirit beasts and spirit insects, and I will release them for a walk. They are all second-level beings, which are too dangerous for you. So if it is not necessary, don't get close to where I live." Hearing Lin Changqing's serious words, the three people of the Li family did not dare to neglect it and quickly agreed. Lin Changqing continued, "After your identity jade cards are ready, let Li Qinshuan go out to handle anything in the future. Both of you, don't leave here casually. When you have to leave, you must come and tell me. As for your yard, build it next to the spiritual field. Apart from this yard, it is the place with the most abundant spiritual energy in the entire valley, which is definitely enough for you to practice." Chapter 643 Settling in Qingyan. This matter related to their personal safety. The three members of the Li family quickly agreed to it. In fact, even if Lin Changqing didn't say it, they were prepared to do so. Lin Changqing thought about it again and continued, "Oh, right. There is one more important point. You must remember that is, never tell anyone outside what you see here. Don't leak any information about me, otherwise the consequences." Although Lin Changqing didn't continue to speak, his consciousness was already very clear, and no one likes to eat treacherous things. So the three members of the Li family really listened to it, and all of them agreed seriously, and kept it firmly in mind. After confirming that Lin Changqing had no other instructions, Muren Qingyan first let the two siblings of the Li family go in to pack their things. Then she asked carefully, "Uncle Changqing, because we don't know when the sect will take back Qingyan Valley. So the spiritual plants in those spiritual fields have been dealt with in advance. Since you have handed the spiritual fields to us to take care of, we can't let the spiritual fields continue to be abandoned. So, what kind of spiritual plants do you think we should plant?" When Lin Changqing heard her ask this, after thinking about it for a while, he still felt that they should decide for themselves. To be honest, he has not been in this world for a long time, and the names of some spiritual plants may be more or less different. So before he understands it clearly, he should try to speak less. Of course, this can also greatly reduce some unnecessary troubles. So he said to Muren Qingyan, "For such small matters, you can decide for yourself in the future, and you don't have to ask me for everything. I believe you can do it well before, and there will be no problem now." When Muren Qingyan heard Lin Changqing say this, she knew that he didn't want to pay attention to such small matters, so that she would know how to grasp the measure in the future. After waiting for a while, the Li siblings came back and told them that they had packed up their things. Lin Changqing asked them to settle down in the first courtyard first, and then he went in himself. He found that this courtyard was decorated very warmly and beautifully, with a lot of flowers and plants planted. It can be seen that it took a lot of thought. When passing the second courtyard, Lin Changqing went in and took a casual look. It was estimated that this courtyard should be where Li Xiangting lived before. He even sensed her breath in a certain room, But Lin Changqing would not live here directly. So he went directly to the last courtyard, chose a room that felt comfortable, arranged his commonly used things, and settled down here. He still liked this courtyard very much, because there was a small garden behind the courtyard, which was connected to the last courtyard. The landscape inside was also very elegant, and there was also an exquisite pavilion. The most surprising thing was that there were 3 clumps of first-level green bamboo planted in the garden. These first-level bamboos were just right for the Jingshan cicada to live. Just control them and try not to use these bamboos. The purple crystal scorpion is much simpler, just find an open place and let them get more sun. The first and second days of the new year, as well as the 4 ball, can be released directly in the future. And they don't have to live in the spirit beast bracelet all the time. Generally speaking, Lin Changqing is quite satisfied with his own yard, but there is still a problem. That is the second-order magic circle covering the entire Qian Valley. After all, it belonged to the Li family in the past, so it is best to make a magic circle and arrange it yourself. In this way, the entire Qian Valley will belong to Lin Changqing, but this matter still has to wait until tomorrow. Because now, it is already late, and it is not appropriate to do it now, and he has another idea. It feels that if the second-order magic circle is still used instead, the grade is a bit too low. It is better to use the third-order magic circle directly. He really doesn't have this, so he still has to go to the General Affairs Hall tomorrow to take a look. I think he should be able to exchange for a third-order magic circle. Release all the spirit insects and spirit pets. After instructing not to hurt anyone casually, especially to tell the god-shocking cicada not to chirp casually, Lin Changqing returned to the room. He took out the storage bag that the old drunkard had thrown to him and used it for the ritual. After finishing it, he checked it and found 2 sets of inner disciple clothing in it. There was also a jade slip and 12 medium-grade spirit stones, and then nothing else. It couldn't be simpler. Lin Changqing couldn't help but curl his lips. The benefits that this sect gave to new disciples were really too few. He took out the jade slip and put it directly on his forehead to read it. He soon understood the content inside. This jade slip was an introduction and distribution map of the various functional buildings in the inner sect, as well as some benefits for inner sect disciples. For example, he had a salary of 100 spirit stones every month, and the 12 medium-grade spirit stones he had just seen were an advance of 1 year's salary for him. In addition, every month, there were elders of the sect who were above the Jinden stage who publicly preached and taught in the inner sect square. Of course, occasionally, they would open their mouths to answer questions raised by disciples, but it mainly depended on the mood of the preaching elder. There are also records about the cave and the island of offerings. In short, after reading this jade slip, Lin Changqing had a rough idea of the situation of the inner sect. If he had seen the contents of this jade slip earlier, he would not have been cheated by the old drunkard and the man surnamed Zhao. But it's too late to say anything now. It's useless to regret it, and it will only add to the troubles. So after packing up his things, he calmed down and started to practice. In his own territory, surrounded by his own spiritual insects and spiritual pets, Lin Changqing rested very well. The next morning, after Lin Changqing completed the basic practice, he scanned with his spiritual sense and found that the 3 people of the Li family were already cleaning up the spiritual field. Lin Changqing ignored them, changed into the clothes of the inner sect disciples, and left Qian Valley directly and flew to the General Affairs Hall. This time he was alone, so he sped up a little and arrived at the destination in just 1 hour. This time he was familiar with the road, and there was no disciple on duty to ask him. But Lin Changqing still saw Chen Shusheng on duty, and the two greeted each other warmly. However, Chen Shusheng was on duty, so it was not convenient for him to chat for a long time, so Lin Changqing left him the address of Qian Valley and invited him to come over for tea when he was free. After Chen Shusheng agreed, Lin Changqing said goodbye to him and entered the General Affairs Hall. There were still as many people here as yesterday, but this time he was wearing the clothes of an inner disciple, and no one looked at him deliberately. Chapter 644 9 Palaces Mirage Formation. So Lin Changqing found a line with fewer people and started queuing. In fact, he had already seen Brother Zhao, who was on duty at the innermost part of the General Affairs Hall, but he was too lazy to pay attention to him, so he pretended not to see him. After queuing for about half an hour, it was Lin Changqing's turn. The person guarding the counter was a young female fellow disciple. After seeing Lin Changqing, she asked, "Brother, what spiritual item do you want to exchange?" Lin Changqing nodded and said, "Excuse me, junior sister. Can I exchange a 3-array magic array here? Trapping arrays, or defensive magic arrays are both fine." The young female fellow disciple heard this and chuckled, "Brother, you underestimate our general affairs hall. We definitely have third-tier magic arrays. There are several magic arrays that meet your requirements. If you have enough contribution points from your sect, I recommend the third-tier trapping array, the 9 Palaces Yuan Mirage array, which can be exchanged for only 11,000 contribution points. For defensive magic arrays, I recommend the 3 Mountains Panlong array, which is the most excellent earth-based magic array. This one is a little cheaper and can be exchanged for only 10,000 contribution points. Of course, there are cheaper third-tier magic arrays. If you need them, I can introduce them to you." When Lin Changqing heard this, he chose the 9 Palaces Yuan Mirage array in his heart. Perhaps this magic array was more in line with his expectations. However, he didn't have that many set contribution points in his hand now, but it didn't matter, he still had a lot of spirit stones. So he said, "No need, junior sister, I will exchange for the 9 Palaces Yuan Mirage array, but the contribution points are not enough. I will exchange some with spirit stones first." After that, he poured 300,000 low-grade spirits on the counter and handed over his identity jade card. This action immediately caused a lot of commotion around, including the female fellow disciple at the counter, who looked at him with a little surprise. However, she quickly reacted and knew that this senior brother must have just entered the inner gate not long ago. She didn't understand the way spirit stones were exchanged for sect contribution points here, but now that the spirit stones had been poured on the counter, she couldn't say anything anymore. So she immediately counted the spirit stones, exchanged for contribution points, and prepared the array that Lin Changqing needed. In fact, Lin Changqing poured out so many spirit stones and saw the reactions of the fellow disciples around him. He knew that there must be something in it that he didn't know. But since it had been poured out, there was no way to take it back. He could only wait for an opportunity in the future and find someone to learn more about it. Soon, the counter brought out the third order 9 Palaces Yuan Mirage formation and Lin Changqing's identity jade card. He said, "Brother, I exchanged 30,000 sect contribution points for you." After deducting the contribution points for purchasing the 9 Palaces Yuan Mirage formation, the remaining sect contribution points are all in the identity jade card. "Brother, check it yourself and confirm it." Lin Changqing took the things and checked them. He put them away if he found no problems. He took another look at the contribution points on his identity jade card and found that there were more than 21,800 points, so he knew there was no problem. Seeing that it was going so smoothly, Lin Changqing couldn't help but ask again, "Junior sister, do you have a third order thunder attribute magic weapon here?" The female fellow disciple at the counter saw that Lin Changqing was going to buy a third order magic weapon, and greeted him enthusiastically. "Of course there is. Brother, wait a moment, I'll help you check it." After that, she took a jade slit and read it. After a while, he looked at Lin Changqing and continued, "Brother, I found 3 magic weapons with thunder attributes. The first one is the Yimu Yinlai sword, a third-level low-grade magic weapon with wood, thunder and dual attributes. It only takes 11,000 sect contribution points to exchange it. The second one is the Qinglai gourd, which is also a third-level medium-grade magic weapon with wood, thunder and dual attributes. It only takes 18,000 sect contribution points to exchange it. The third one is the Thunder Golden Light Shield, a third-level medium-grade magic weapon with gold, thunder and dual attributes. It takes 22,000 sect contribution points to exchange it. These are the 3. Which one do you think is suitable?" When Lin Changqing heard this, he actually felt that all 3 were suitable. But suddenly he thought that his apparent cultivation level was only the late stage of foundation building. If he bought too many magic weapons at once, it would be a bit unreasonable. So Lin Changqing weighed it quickly in his mind before he said, "Then let's take the Thunder Golden Light Shield." He handed over the identity jade card and poured another 10,000 low-grade spirit stones on the counter. This time, the junior sister at the counter was no longer surprised. After quickly counting the spirit stones, she went to help Lin Changqing get the Thunder Golden Light Shield. After a while, she came back and handed the magic weapon and the identity jade card back to Lin Changqing. She couldn't help but remind him, "Brother, next time you come to the General Affairs Hall to exchange spiritual objects, you can find a familiar fellow disciple to find out the specific market conditions first, and then it won't be too late to come here." After saying that, she also winked at Lin Changqing playfully. Seeing her like this, Lin Changqing couldn't help but laugh. This junior sister is still a good person. He knew that this junior sister must want to remind him of something, and it should be related to exchanging spirit stones for sect contribution points. Although she didn't say it explicitly, Lin Changqing was still very grateful, so he nodded and said, "Thank you, junior sister, for your reminder. Next time I will definitely find out clearly before coming." After saying that, he took the initiative to say goodbye and left. At this time, there were still a lot of people queuing behind him. After leaving the inner gate General Affairs Hall, Lin Changqing flew directly to the direction of Qian Valley. An hour later, he returned to the yard and made himself a pot of spiritual tea in the pavilion in the back garden. He began to study the jade slip attached to the 9 Palaces Yuan Mirage Array. He must read it carefully to better arrange this 3rd-level magic array. Although this magic array is also a portable array disk, it also comes with 81 small array flags, which is much more complicated than the 2nd-level magic arrays he arranged before. So Lin Changqing must study it thoroughly before arranging it. Otherwise, the magic array will definitely have flaws, which is not acceptable to him. He spent such a big price, and this is also the place where he will practice in the future, so he must be very cautious. It's a pity that Chen Ziyi is not by his side, otherwise he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Lin Changqing spent several hours researching this. Suddenly, he felt something in his heart, and felt that someone had triggered the 2nd-level defense array of Qian Valley. So he couldn't help but use his spiritual sense to scan it, and found that it was Brother Zhao from yesterday, who was waiting at the entrance of Qian Valley. Then Lin Changqing's nominal disciple, Lin Changqing, ran over in a hurry. Chapter 645 Trouble at the Door. After greeting Lin Changqing, he said directly, "Master, Uncle Zhao is here to visit. He's outside Qian Valley now. Do you think it is?" Lin Changqing did not wait for him to finish, and said directly, "I almost had a falling out with him yesterday, and I don't want to see him now. You go and bring him in and treat him well. I won't go out, so as not to embarrass him. And I guess this time, he should be here to give you the identity jade card, so it doesn't matter whether I am there or not. Also, remember to ask the man's surname Zhao to arrange someone to build a yard for you. There is nothing else, just go." Hearing Lin Changqing say this, Lin Changqing knew that his nominal master would never show up again. So he had to agree, then bowed, and said goodbye and left. Afterwards, Lin Changqing no longer paid attention to them, but just recalled the shocking cicada back into the spirit beast bracelet. As for all the purple crystal scorpions, let them become invisible directly, so that it is almost foolproof. Of course, Lin Changqing did this just in case. After all, Zhao was a guest, so I believe you must know that he can't use his spiritual sense to scan around randomly. In fact, he has already studied the 9 Palaces Yuan Mirage Array a little bit. This should be a trap array as the main array, and a magic array as the auxiliary array. It is considered a very powerful array. If Lin Changqing dares to expand the range of the array, that is, to cover the 3 hills surrounding Qian Valley, then he can even hide the entire Qian Valley. But if he really does that, it will obviously cross the line. It is estimated that someone in the sect will come to trouble him. But if that is really the case, then at most, he can just reduce the range of the array. If no one comes to cause trouble, he will pretend that he doesn't know. Anyway, he will make a fortune in silence. In this way, the original 2nd-level array of the Li family can be dismantled, and it can be used when the yard is built in the future if needed. After about half an hour, there were some fluctuations in the array, and Lin Changqing knew that the man's surname Zhao must have left. But after a while, Lin Changqing came again. After greeting, he said respectfully, "Master, Uncle Zhao is indeed here to give us the identity jade card. Now he has gone back, and we have already told him about finding someone to build the courtyard. Uncle Zhao said that he will go back to make arrangements, and someone should be here in 1 or 2 days. Lin Changqing listened, nodded and said, "Okay, I got it. If someone comes to build the courtyard, you can come out to receive them yourself, and the sect contribution points will be deducted from me first. That's it, nothing else. You can go down and practice first." Lin Changqing heard what Lin Changqing said, and quickly agreed. However, he did not leave as Lin Changqing said, but looked as if he wanted to say something but hesitated. Seeing that Lin Changqing felt bad for him, he couldn't help but said, "Just say what you want to say, don't be so hesitant." After hearing what Lin Changqing said, Lin Changqing made up his mind and said, Master, I heard that you also have 5 spiritual roots. I have some questions about cultivation. Can I ask you for advice? When Lin Changqing heard this, he knew that it must be the man surnamed Zhao who told Lin Changqing about this matter. It seems that he cares about the 3 people of the Li family. However, Lin Changqing is still his nominal disciple after all. If he refuses directly, it would seem a bit unkind. In addition, they will meet often in the future, but they can't make the relationship so stiff. So after thinking about it, he said, Sure. After all, I am your nominal master. Although I can't teach you anything. But within my ability, I can answer some of your questions about cultivation, and there is no problem. If you have any questions in the future, just accumulate them together. If I am not in seclusion for cultivation, I will answer them for you once every half a month. When Lin Changqing heard that Lin Changqing was willing to help him answer his questions, his face flushed with excitement, and he quickly thanked him happily. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master. Then I will come to ask you for advice on the 1st and 15th day of the month in the future. Lin Changqing nodded and said, Okay. That's it for now. After Lin Changqing confirmed, Lin Changqing said goodbye happily and left. He should want to tell his mother and sister this good news as soon as possible. However, Lin Changqing ignored them and continued to devote himself to studying the detailed explanation of the 9 palaces Yuan Mirage Array in his hand. He must try to understand it as soon as possible, and then quickly arrange the array, so that he will be completely at ease. It took Lin Changqing 3 days to completely understand the formation, but the next day, people started to come to build the yard. After Lin Changqing came out to receive and communicate, he knew that the entire construction period would take 3 or 4 days for the yard to be completely built. So Lin Changqing planned to wait until they finished the work before arranging the 9 palaces Yuan Mirage formation. However, he had already seen the place where the formation flags were laid out in advance, and he could start to set up the formation after these outsiders left. He did this because he didn't want others to know that his mountain protection formation covered the 3 small hills that did not belong to him. But on the 4th day, the trouble that Lin Changqing had been waiting for finally came. After Lin Changqing felt that someone had touched the formation, Lin Changqing ran over like a fire on his butt. He hurriedly reported to him, Master, it's not good. That Wei Changqing is here. The one who has always been targeting my sister. This reckless look made Lin Changqing glare at him. In fact, before Lin Changqing came, he had already used his spiritual sense to scan the area, and had already seen a fellow disciple with a horse face standing outside the valley. Although that person had reached the great perfection of the foundation building stage, his aura was very strange, giving people a feeling of unreliability and a strong sense of vanity. No wonder the old drunkard judged that he was improving his cultivation through evil means. Lin Changqing also made the same judgment after taking a glance. And Lin Changqing immediately guessed who this person was. However, the person looked like this, which could be regarded as the ugliest male cultivator Lin Changqing had ever seen. He didn't know about others, but Lin Changqing was really disgusted when he saw his appearance. So if possible, he really didn't want to go over, so as not to pollute his eyes. But there was no way. He promised the old drunkard, so he had to go over and deal with this trouble. Chapter 646, Diverting Conflicts. So although Lin Changqing was in a bad mood, he still controlled his emotions. He said, I know. I'll go meet him. Tell your sisters not to come out. After that, he stood up and walked out of the valley. After a while, he came to the edge of the formation. After casting a spell, a crack appeared on the formation barrier. Lin Changqing took the initiative and said, Brother, you touched the formation of my cave. Is there something wrong? Wei Changqing, who had a big horse face, said quickly with a smile on his face, I'm sorry to bother this junior brother. I'm Wei Changqing, and I'm familiar with my niece Li Xiangting who used to live here. I haven't seen her for a while. This time I came here specifically to visit her. Please give me some convenience. My father is Wei Qingdan, a 4th-level alchemist at Tanding Peak. If you need any elixir in the future, just come to me and I will definitely help you get it. Lin Changqing nodded and said, Oh. So you are the famous Brother Wei. I heard your name from Brother Zhao in the General Affairs Hall a long time ago. I already know why you came, but after I came out just now, I asked Li Xiangting's opinion, and she didn't want to see you. So I'm sorry that I can't help you, Brother Wei, please go back. After hearing this, Wei Changqing couldn't help but shout, this is impossible. When I met her last month, she was fine. How could she suddenly disappear without me? I don't believe you. Let her come out and tell me face to face." Hearing this, Lin Changqing was too lazy to flatter him and said directly, "Brother Wei, you don't have to waste your time here. Uncle Ranming should have told Li Xiangting about your details. How dare she see you? Unless she really doesn't want to live and wants to be used as a cauldron by you and sucked dry, but I believe she can't be so stupid. So you don't have to come to this place again in the future. If you have any questions, go to Uncle Ranming and don't come here to disturb my practice." After saying that, without waiting for Wei Changzheng to react, he directly closed the cracks on the formation barrier. Standing inside the formation, looking at the helpless and furious Wei Changzheng outside Qian Valley, he kept smashing the formation barrier with his fists. Lin Changqing smiled secretly in his heart. No matter how he smashed it, this magic circle was directly connected to the spiritual vein. As long as it was not broken all at once, the spiritual energy would be supplied continuously, and there was no need to waste Lin Changqing's spiritual stones, so he didn't care. Moreover, the old drunkard and the man surnamed Zhao had always been plotting against him. This time he directly transferred the conflict to them. Let them fight each other, so as not to get into trouble. Sure enough, after a while, Wei Changzheng saw that no one paid attention to him, so he left angrily. As for whether he dared to settle accounts with the old drunkard, it was none of Lin Changqing's business. When he returned to the yard, the three members of the Li family were standing at the door to greet him. Lin Changqing also knew that what they were most worried about now was whether he could protect them. So he said directly, "It's okay, I have sent that Wei Changzheng away. He probably won't come again in a short time. Moreover, after the new courtyard is built, I will replace Qian Valley with a top-notch third-level formation. So he should not be able to break in. You can practice here with peace of mind in the future." The three people of the Li family were very excited when they heard it, and they all thanked him. Especially Li Qinchuan, his face was flushed with excitement, and he was very grateful to Lin Changqing. However, Lin Changqing did not stay with him for long. After a few people chatted for a few words, he returned to his room. In fact, he has started to sacrifice the third-level magic weapon, the Thunder Golden Light Shield, in the past 2 days. However, although the magic weapon has been sent into the Thunder Acupoint through the secret technique of receiving treasures, it has not yet been successfully sacrificed. So in the past 2 days, whenever Lin Changqing was free, he mobilized the Thunder Mana in each Acupoint to sacrifice this magic weapon. Fortunately, it is estimated that after another 7 or 8 days of sacrifice and refining, he will be able to successfully control it freely, and then he can greatly make up for his lack of defense. After all, magic weapons and spiritual tools are different. They will not be destroyed so easily, and the longer they are nurtured, the more powerful the magic weapons will be. Just like this, 2 days later, the new courtyard was finally built. The 2,000 sect contribution points were paid by Lin Changqing first. Originally, Muren Qingyan wanted to pay Lin Changqing with spiritual stones, but he refused. He knew that they should not have much savings. So he proposed that he would help to bear half of the cost of this courtyard, and the remaining half would be paid a little by the three members of the Li family every year, and it would be paid off in 10 years. Lin Changqing knew that the real difficulties of the Li family were still behind. Although Muren Qingyan still looked very young and beautiful, her actual age should be around 40 years old. But she has just entered the 8th level of key refining. With her spiritual roots, it is estimated that it will take at least 5 or 6 years to enter the 9th level of key refining. It would take at least 7 or 8 years to cultivate to the great perfection of key refining, so even if everything goes well, Muren Qingyan will only have one chance to impact the foundation establishment stage. And she also needs to prepare a pill like a foundation establishment pill, which will cost at least 20,000 to 30,000 spirit stones. And if the three of them practice normally, they will definitely need pills to support them, which is another not small expense. Relying on the output of the 6 floors of Qian Valley, it is estimated that they can only barely maintain the practice. The most important thing is that there are Li Qinchuan and Li Xiangting next, but their spiritual roots are worse, so it goes without saying that they need more resources for practice. So Lin Changqing still sympathizes with them, but it does not mean that he will help them unconditionally. It can only be said that in the future, it depends on the performance of the three of them. If he is satisfied, it is not impossible to help them. But all this must be done without hindering Lin Changqing, and he may lend a hand. After sending away all the outsiders, Lin Changqing summoned the 3 people of the Li family and asked them to dismantle the current second-level magic array first. However, this formation was not set up by them at the time, but by Li Qinshuan's father who had already passed away. So it took some time to dismantle it. By the time Lin Changqing had laid out the Third Order 9 Palaces Yuan Mirage formation, it was almost dark. But the effect of this formation was very good. When the formation was activated, from the outside, Qian Valley and the 3 surrounding hills disappeared. Chapter 647, 9th Level of Foundation Building. And Lin Changqing himself went outside to take a look, and felt very natural. Under the effect of the formation, it blends very well with the surrounding environment. In fact, this is the function of the auxiliary illusion formation. This 9 Palaces Yuan Mirage formation is a combination of a trapping formation and an illusion formation, which is different from the previous second-level defensive formation. If someone enters the range of the formation, there is no formation barrier, but directly enters the interior of the 9 Palaces Yuan Mirage formation. So for safety reasons, Lin Changqing still gave the 3 people from the Li family the most basic pass formulas. Lest they accidentally get trapped in the formation, Lin Changqing would have to rescue them personally. 3 days passed like this, because the new yard had been built and had been ventilated for a few days. So the 3 people from the Li family talked to Lin Changqing and moved over very consciously. Lin Changqing also reminded them that they could dismantle the second-level defensive formation and arrange it in the new yard, but in the end they didn't do it. I guess they didn't want to have a barrier with Lin Changqing, so they didn't arrange the formation, but this was not his problem. As the master, Lin Changqing allowed them to set up the magic circle. If they didn't do it themselves, he couldn't do anything about it. Besides, it didn't matter if they didn't set up the magic circle. If there was anything, Lin Changqing would know it with a scan of his consciousness. This would make it easier for him to understand the situation of the entire Qian Valley. Just like that, 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. During this period, Lin Changqing's strength also increased greatly. First of all, the Thunder Golden Light Shield has been completely refined, and Lin Changqing also tested its defense. The Thunder Golden Light Shield was attacked by a Zhengjing Divine Thunder head-on, and the body of the Thunder Golden Light Shield was fine. Later, the attack intensity was increased, and 3 Zhengjing Divine Thunders were fired in a row, but they only blew the Golden Light Shield away. After taking it back into the Thunder Acupoint and nurturing it for a period of time, it can continue to be used normally. The second aspect is about the expansion of the Thunder Acupoint. Under Lin Changqing's continuous persistence, it actually took 2 months to fully expand an acupoint. So if the remaining 108 Thunder Acupoints are to be fully expanded, it will take a full 18 years. Lin Changqing couldn't help but have a headache when he thought about this time, but the effect after the expansion was immediate. The thunder magic power that could be contained in the acupoints was immediately doubled. It can be used to activate the new combination of thunder magic twice. In addition, after the Thunder Sutra was promoted to the Purple Mansion stage, the quality of the thunder magic power was unconsciously improved. So now the power of a combination of Divine Thunder is at least 4 times that of the ordinary Divine Thunder. But the problem now is that expanding the Thunder Acupoints is too time-consuming, so he can't help but think of the 13 Thunder Fruits. Lin Changqing believes that if he really takes the Thunder Fruit, he can definitely complete the task of expanding the Thunder Acupoints quickly. But he originally wanted to use half of these Thunder Fruits to open up the Thunder Acupoints and leave the other half for his family. He didn't think of wasting them here. Therefore, in the end, Lin Changqing still didn't take action. So the matter of using the Thunder Fruit finally stopped. Thirdly, Lin Changqing has been practicing 2 fundamental methods together, so after this period of practice, 3 days ago, he took 300-year-old red fruits at once, and then he broke through to the 9th level of foundation building very smoothly. As long as he practices to the late stage of foundation building, he can try to break through to the formal Purple Mansion stage. However, there are not many 100-year-old red fruits left in Lin Changqing's hand, less than 50, and he has to leave some for Chao Chu, so he can only use about 40. In that case, it is estimated that it will take at least 5 or 6 years for him to practice to the late stage of foundation building. It just so happens that Lin Changqing needs to use this time to prepare some things to help him survive the tribulation. He doesn't want to be like last time. He was almost dead, just a little bit, and he really died under the heavenly tribulation. So this time, no matter what, Lin Changqing must be fully prepared, and he can't let the last thing happen again. That's about it, and during this period of time, Lin Changqing and the 3 members of the Li family get along well. Their whole family respected Lin Changqing very much, but he had said so before, so the people of the Li family did not dare to disturb him casually. That is, Li Qinshuan sent some fresh spiritual fruits to Lin Changqing every few days. Of course, these were produced in Qian Valley. And Li Qinshuan has recently successfully broken through to the 4th level of key refining, and Lin Changqing has contributed a little to this. After all, in the past 2 months, Lin Changqing has helped him answer many questions about cultivation. Moreover, during this period of time, Li Qinshuan and Lin Changqing have had more contact, and after getting familiar with each other, he finally gradually revealed his true nature. That is, he's thick-skinned and dares to climb up with a pole. When he asked Lin Changqing for a question for the 2nd time, he actually asked you if his sister could also come to ask Lin Changqing for advice next time. Lin Changqing considered that one is also teaching, and 2 are also teaching, so he finally nodded and agreed. However, the days of practicing with peace of mind are over, because as an inner disciple, he needs to perform a sect mission at least once every 3 months. So Lin Changqing prepared to go to the sect's mission hall to take a look. After all, he had been here for so long, but he hadn't been there yet. So early this morning, Lin Changqing left Qian Valley and flew to his destination. This time the distance was a little farther. It took Lin Changqing an hour and a half to get there. The sect's mission hall was much larger than the general affairs hall. And it was really lively, with people coming and going. When he really stepped into the mission hall, he found that there were more people inside. And it was Lin Changqing's first time here, so he was always observing everywhere. I don't know anything else, but the huge green jade wall in the center of the entire hall immediately attracted his attention. This jade wall is not just 2 sides, but a huge cylindrical octahedron, and there is a lot of information scrolling on it. And around it, there are many fellow monks who are constantly studying the information on it. Lin Changqing also leaned over and scanned it with his spiritual sense, and found that the content on it was exactly the task issued by the sect, so he also hurried over and studied it carefully. I found that there are several tasks of different colors, the most eye-catching of which is the red border task. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 648 4-Color Mission. There is a task on the Jade Wall that has always been on top, which is the 10-year border guard task, and the rewards are also very rich. The rewards are different depending on the cultivation level. For example, the cultivation level in the late stage of foundation building is rewarded with 15,000 sect contribution points every year. Moreover, you can apply for 5 years of rewards in advance at one time, and you can apply again after the remaining 5 years. And if you choose this task, you can have a full 10 years of rest time after completing it. In other words, you don't have to do any tasks for 10 years, and no one in the sect will bother you. Of course, there is more than this task. There are also tasks with fewer years, such as 5 or 3 years, but the rewards are relatively less. There is also a border hunting task, which is relatively flexible. The minimum completion requirement is to hunt down a monk of the same level from a hostile sect every year, or 3 monks from a hostile sect with a slightly lower cultivation level. For example, if Lin Changqing accepts this task, he must hunt down at least 1 late-stage foundation building disciple of the Blood Sea sect, or 3 mid-stage foundation building disciples every year. Of course, with Lin Changqing's ability, if he really took action, his record would definitely not be bad. And no matter whether it is a guard mission or a hunting mission, as long as you kill the monks of the hostile sect, you can get the demon hunting merit. The role of this demon hunting merit is greater than the contribution points of the sect, in addition to improving the spiritual veins of the island for exchange. You can also exchange some more precious spiritual objects within the sect. This will be explained in detail when you encounter it in the future. However, Lin Changqing is not ready to take these 2 border missions now. He wants to consider taking this red mission after improving his own strength. Moreover, he has not been to the vicinity of his own sect yet. He can get familiar with it for a while. Consider whether to perform border missions, so Lin Changqing turned his attention to other colored tasks. After the red mission, it is the purple mission. This purple is a bounty hunting mission, which is to deal with some targets wanted by the sect within the scope of the sect. The sources of these targets are varied, and they may be traitors of the sect, or they may be various robbery cultivators. However, their characteristic is that the target will not stay in one place honestly, and it takes a lot of time to find it. And it is not certain that you can find it every time. It is also possible that after accepting the task, the ghost has not found a single one after the deadline. And there are really many such tasks. Lin Changqing saw that there are 2 jade walls full of such tasks. But there is another characteristic of this task, that is, most of the task targets are far away from the sect. So Lin Changqing doesn't want to take any of this, because if he accepts it, most of the time will definitely be spent on rushing and looking for people. That is really not cost effective, unless you plan the route well and take on 3 or 4 such tasks at a time. If you complete all the tasks that need to be done in a year at once, then you can consider it. However, this kind of task has a lot of variables. If you can't find the target in a short time, it will be troublesome. So Lin Changqing thought about it, but still felt it was not suitable, and finally gave up. Next is the blue bounty hunting task, which is also the same, occupying 2 sides of the jade wall. This kind of task is mainly that someone in the sect needs a demon pill from a certain demon beast, or a certain spiritual material from them, so a bounty task is issued. Lin Changqing focused on this kind of task, because relatively speaking, the goal of this task is relatively fixed and clear. In addition to handing in the designated spiritual materials, the rest of the things are all yours, and you can also get the reward of the task. As for the last type, it is the white sect routine anything. There is actually nothing to say about this. Basically, it is inside the sect, without going out, and there is no great danger. It is some tasks such as planting, feeding, alchemy, and refining. The rewards are also different, but overall, they are relatively ordinary, but these are suitable for fellow disciples who have cultivated hundreds of arts. Lin Changqing did not join in the fun, so he turned his attention back to the blue demon hunting task. It took almost an hour to select 3 tasks that were not too far apart. Then he ran to a team with the least number of people to queue up, and queued for about half an hour before it was finally his turn. During the time he was waiting in line, Lin Changqing had already observed carefully and understood how to accept the task. In fact, it was very simple. Just hand over the identity jade card at the rejection counter and report the task number. If no one has received this task before, you will be considered to have successfully accepted it. However, Lin Changqing's luck was relatively bad this time. Among the 3 tasks he was interested in, one happened to have been taken by someone else not long ago. So he could only find the nearest adjacent task after asking for confirmation, but the reward for this task was relatively low. But it was not unacceptable. After taking back the identity jade card and 3 task scrolls, Lin Changqing flew to the General Affairs Hall. Before he went out to do the task, he had to talk to the old drunkard and the 3 members of the Li family. Fortunately, the 2 places were not too far apart. Lin Changqing flew for half an hour and saw the General Affairs Hall. He walked directly to the innermost part with familiarity, and this time he did not see Brother Zhao. After telling the disciple on duty at the door about his purpose, he was taken into the backyard and met the old drunkard again. After the disciple on duty finished reporting and left, Lin Changqing also opened his mouth to greet him. Disciple greets Uncle Master Ranming. The old drunkard half squinted his eyes, glanced at him vaguely, and then asked lightly, "Why are you not practicing in Qian Valley and running to me again?" Lin Changqing didn't know whether Wei Changzhen, who had transferred the conflict to this old drunkard last time, dared to come and settle accounts with him. But Lin Changqing guessed in his heart that the man probably didn't dare, so he pretended not to know what happened last time. He said directly, "Disciple's going out to do a few tasks and needs to leave Qian Valley for a while. If everything goes well, it is estimated that it will take about 2 or 3 months, so I came here specially to report to Uncle Master." After hearing this, the old drunkard Ranming didn't express much, but looked Lin Changqing up and down. Chapter 649, Reminder from the Old Drunkard. Then he said lightly, "I know. Starting from tomorrow, I will arrange someone to watch them. But last time you treated that little horse-faced man like that, he didn't dare to come to me, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't dare to go to you. So if you really want to leave the sect, you have to be more careful, otherwise I have to continue to find someone to take care of the 3 people in the Li family." When Lin Changqing heard this, it turned out that the old drunkard knew everything, so he laughed dryly a few times to cover up his embarrassment. Then he said, "Thank you for your reminder, Uncle, I will keep it in mind. When this task is completed, I will help Uncle find a suitable spirit wine and bring it to you to taste it." Hearing what Lin Changqing said, the old drunkard said softly, Then he said, "You are a kid, you still have a conscience. Go. Come back alive, and don't forget the spiritual wine you promised me. If you don't see the spiritual wine next time we meet, then I will settle the new and old accounts together and see how I deal with you." When Lin Changqing heard this, he hurriedly said with a playful smile, "The disciple will definitely not forget it, you can rest assured." Then I will take my leave. After that, after seeing the old drunkard wave his hand, he immediately slipped out of the small courtyard. When he came back to the General Affairs Hall, he saw that there were not many people here today, so he simply went to line up. He was going to deal with the unused attack spiritual weapons in his hand that he got in the Leiji secret realm. There are still quite a few of these spiritual weapons, and the total number of various grades is almost 200. And he also deliberately used his spiritual sense to sneak a peek. The counter that Lin Changqing specially chose still corresponds to the little junior sister last time. He knew that they were on duty here and there were also performance requirements, so if there was a good thing this time, he would definitely come to repay her. As for the junior sister at the counter, she was very impressed with Lin Changqing because of the exchange of sect contribution points last time. So when she saw Lin Changqing again this time, she chuckled and asked, "Brother Lin, we meet again. You won't come to exchange sect contribution points this time, right?" After saying that, she couldn't help laughing. After hearing this, Lin Changqing also laughed awkwardly a few times. He really didn't know anything before. Not to mention that he suffered a loss. I think he must have made a big joke in the minds of many fellow disciples who were queuing at that time. However, during this period of time, he had asked Lin Changqing and knew what was going on. In fact, it was some little tricks in the sect. Normally, the sect stipulates that 10 low-grade spirit stones can be exchanged for 1 sect contribution point. But on the other hand, 1 sect contribution point can only be exchanged for 5 low-grade spirit stones. Therefore, it is obvious that there is a double profit in it, and there are many powerful inner disciples who want to earn this profit. Normally, if Lin Changqing can find a channel, 75 lower-grade spirit stones can be exchanged for 10 points of sect contribution points. If the exchange amount is relatively large, such as transactions of more than 100,000 spirit stones, it can even be done that 68 lower-grade spirit stones can be exchanged for 10 points of sect contribution points. So last time, Lin Changqing exchanged more than 300,000 lower-grade spirit stones, which was actually a big loss. It is estimated that he lost about 100,000 lower-grade spirit stones. But since Lin Changqing knows about this, he will definitely not do such a stupid thing again. Therefore, Lin Changqing is still very grateful to the junior sister who reminded him last time. Lin Changqing nodded to her and said, "Thank you for reminding me last time. The General Affairs Hall should recycle spiritual tools, right? I just have some extra spiritual tools in my hand. I want to deal with them. I have to trouble you again." The junior sister at the counter thought that he just had a few spiritual tools to deal with, so she didn't take it to heart. He said directly, "Yes, we have a business of recycling spiritual tools here, but even if the spiritual tools are intact, they can only be recycled at 80% of the market price. If the spiritual tools are damaged, they will be recycled at 50% to 70% of the price, and can only be settled with the sect contribution points. That's it. Do you still want to deal with the spiritual tools in your hands?" After hearing this result, Lin Changqing was almost the same as he expected, so he didn't bother about it anymore. So he said, "That's it, trouble you, junior sister." After saying that, he took out a storage bag that had been prepared long ago, wiped off the mark on it, and handed it over. The little junior sister was obviously stunned for a moment, but she reacted quickly and immediately reached out to take the storage bag. After using the magic power to refine it a little, the spiritual consciousness probed into it and found that there were actually a lot of spiritual tools of different grades inside. He was shocked and immediately understood what was going on. These were obviously spoils of war. But there are so many spiritual weapons. How many foundation-building monks must be killed to gather this number? He couldn't help but look at Lin Changqing with a little fear and said, "Brother Lin, there are too many spiritual weapons. Please wait a moment. I will find someone to help count them." After that, without waiting for his answer, He took the storage bag and ran away. Fortunately, Lin Changqing was not worried that someone would dare to steal his things, so he still waited patiently in front of the counter. The fellow disciples waiting in line behind him saw that the little junior sister who was receiving them at the counter had left, and they were all talking about it. Of course, there were also smart fellow disciples who immediately changed a way to line up, so there were fewer people behind Lin Changqing. But these were none of his business. After about half an hour, the little junior sister came back again. He whispered to Lin Changqing, "Brother, I have already counted them. I even went to ask the elders for instructions. This time, even if there are slightly damaged spiritual tools, they are all calculated as intact. There are a total of 205 spiritual tools, among which the second-level lower-grade spiritual tools are uniformly calculated at 200 sect contribution points each. The second-level middle-grade spiritual tools are calculated at 400 contribution points each. The upper-grade spiritual tools are calculated at 800 each, and the best-grade spiritual tools are calculated at 1,600 contribution points each. So the total is 118,200 sect contribution points. Brother Lin, do you think this estimate is okay?" After listening to Lin Changqing, he quickly calculated in his mind. The sect's calculation method is to calculate 5 lower-grade spirit stones for each sect contribution point. About 200 spiritual tools, converted into 118,000 contribution points, should be about the same. Chapter 650 Yimu Yinlai Sword. Of course, Lin Changqing also knew that he would definitely lose some money after the conversion. But the advantage was that it was clean and there was no handicap, so he was still very satisfied. So he nodded with a smile and said, "Very good. Just use the number that junior sister said." After that, he took out his identity jade card and handed it over. The junior sister happily took it and said, "Thank you, Senior Brother Lin, for taking care of me. Senior Brother, do you have any other spiritual objects you want? If so, I will help you find them, and then settle them together." Lin Changqing listened, and his heart moved. He thought it would be nice to get a third-level flying sword by the way. So he said, "Then you trouble junior sister, please help me get the Yimu Yinlai sword that I introduced last time." The junior sister happily agreed, and then went down to find someone to get the third-level magic flying sword for you, Lin Changqing. After a while, she came back and handed Lin Changqing a storage bag directly. He said, "Brother, this storage bag is returned to its original owner. Everything you want is in it. Also, the 11,000 sect contribution points for exchanging for the lightning flying sword have been deducted. The rest are recorded in the identity jade card." Lin Changqing nodded, and after the ritual, he took a look. Inside was a black lightning magic flying sword and his identity jade card. After confirming that there was no problem, he said goodbye to the little sister, then left a general affairs hall and flew to Qian Valley. An hour later, Lin Changqing successfully returned to his own small courtyard. He was going to set off to complete the task tomorrow, so he immediately summoned the 3 people from the Li family. He met their family in the living room, and after everyone greeted each other, they sat down as host and guest. Lin Changqing said directly, "I think you should know this. As an inner disciple of Xianshu sect, you must complete a sect mission every 3 months. So this time, I took on 3 at a time and planned to set off tomorrow. So I called you here this time to tell you about this." Li Qinshan didn't say anything after hearing this, but just said, "Then Master, you must be careful when you go out, and complete the mission as soon as possible and come back safely." Although Muran Qingayan and Li Xiangting also asked him to be careful when performing the mission, they were obviously hesitant to speak. Of course, Lin Changqing understood very well what they were worried about, so he continued to say, "Don't worry. I will be back in about 2 or 3 months. And just now, I have gone to see Uncle Ranming, and he has promised to arrange someone to look after you. So you just need to stay in Qian Valley and don't go out casually, and there will be no problem. I believe that there will be no one who dares to break into the important place of the inner gate without knowing the consequences." After hearing what Lin Changqing said, the mother and daughter felt more at ease. Then the 4 of them chatted for a while, and they were sent away by Lin Changqing. He felt quite good about the mother and daughter of the Li family, but now he only wanted to practice and didn't want to get involved in some messy things. He answered Li Xiangjin's questions several times, and Lin Changqing felt her look at him to some extent, but he really didn't want to now. So Lin Changqing usually kept a distance from them consciously to avoid unnecessary trouble. In this way, after they all left, Lin Changqing immediately returned to his room and began to sacrifice and refine the Yinli sword that he had just obtained. This is a third-level lower-grade magic weapon. With his mana and consciousness, it is estimated that it will be completely refined in about 5 or 6 days. Of course, if it is sent to the Thunder Acupoint, it can be completed today through the secret technique. The rest can be done while rushing on the road. The next morning, after Lin Changqing completed the basic practice, he recalled all the spirit insects and spirit pets into the spirit beast bracelet. After talking to Li Qinshuan, he left Qian Valley directly. After flying for more than 2 hours, I saw the mountain gate. There I registered the time of departure and the approximate location of the mission. Then I followed the direction of the mountain gate and left Qinshu Island, and then adjusted the direction and flew towards the mission sea area. After flying for a distance, he released Chuai and Shu'er, and then sat on Chuai's back and hurried on the road. After Chuai had recuperated for this period of time, the injuries he suffered in the Thunder Secret Realm at that time had been completely healed. It even has a bit of the meaning of breaking and then building. His cultivation is very close to the middle stage of the second stage. It is estimated that if he works hard for another year or 2, he should be able to break through. He and Chuai are already old partners. After telling Chuai the direction he is going, Lin Changqing doesn't care much and lets it fly with him. He focuses his attention on one of his thunder points. Because the Yinli sword that was just delivered yesterday is here, he has to hurry up and refine this magic weapon completely. After flying for 7 or 8 days, Lin Changqing finally succeeded in refining it. After all, he was on the way and couldn't concentrate. So the efficiency was still a lot worse, but today he finally got what he wanted. He really has the first offensive magic weapon that can be controlled at will. Lin Changqing even used this flying sword to test the speed. Sure enough, it was more than 3 or 4 times faster than when he controlled the spiritual weapon. But the consumption of thunder mana has also increased several times. He now has 109 thunder points. It is estimated that this magic weapon can be used to fly for about 2 days, but there is no urgent matter now, so it will definitely not be done. Let Chuai fly at this speed. Anyway, he has said that he will be out for 2 or 3 months, so there is no need to rush. And when he encounters those larger islands, he will go down to take a look to see if there are any other gains. Apart from anything else, at least he has to get some spirit wine back for the old drunkard, otherwise he will definitely be dealt with by him. The first mission is located in the southeast of Rainbow Island, in the sea area of about 15,000 miles. The monster to be found and dealt with is a second-level monster called the Golden Ring White Sea Snake, and this kind of monster is in pairs. The task requires to get 10 of their venom sacs, and it is also required that the venom sacs must be relatively full, not the kind that is shriveled after the venom is exhausted. So Lin Changqing is considering how to deal with them, after all. He has read the detailed introduction on the task scroll. Only then did I know that this kind of monster likes to drill holes in the seabed, and their holes are as big as a palm. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.